Welcome once again to the Goat here in Dublin, the finest sports bar in Ireland, for our third at the races Cheltenham Festival preview night with our betting partners with Coral. I'm Emmet Kennedy from the Final Furlong Podcast. We'll be doing a load. In fact, are there Final Furlong Podcast listeners here tonight? All exclusive audience of listeners who acted in time to get the tickets, and that poor man over there, Kevin Blake, is responsible for getting you here. So
You're welcome.
If you didn't get live tickets, it's all his fault. Tonight, we are joined by an all-star panel. Listen, Matt, you're going to interrupt a little bit later on. Interrupt then, right?
Because that is one of the worst intros to any Cheltenham preview night I've ever heard.
Seriously.
It sounded like you had one fan, and we're going live to more people than have watched any racing event in Ireland since Netflix took over. So let's try again. Welcome to the fucking Goats! That's more like it.
We're 30 seconds in, and already Matt Chapman has had a go at the current broadcasters. And speaking of current broadcasters of Irish racing, here is a man who thought he would never be allowed back in Ireland for at least 5 years and possibly longer, and how he cried. Oh, how upset he was. But also, you were all upset too, weren't you? Because you weren't going to get him here in Ireland anymore. But he's back. Back in Ireland once again. It's a man who loves Irish racing more than anybody else. Give it up for Matt Chapman!
Who needs Sancro when I'm here?
You pox Samcro. A man who joined us 2 years ago and was an absolute star. Some people call him the greatest jockey never to become a pro. Some people call him the Oracle because on this night 2 years ago, he tipped Le Bake to win the Supreme Novices Hurdle at 50-1. He tipped Cause of Causes at 10-1. He tipped Fiona to win the Champion Bumper. So there's no pressure on the man we call the Codfather, Jamie Cod! Hey!
No. Jamie's that good at predictions. He predicted Le Bake was going to end up in cab.
Criminal Assets Bureau, for those of you who are watching in the UK. A man who has so far had 36 Cheltenham Festival winners to his name, but that will surely be added to in great quantities. He's got some book of rides, so much so Ruby Walsh is envious of him. Please give it up for one of the best jockeys in the business, Barry Geraghty! Cannot wait to hear from Sky Sports Racing's brand ambassador throughout the night. Speaking of making the transfer to At the Races, this man started on the Final Furlong Podcast all those years ago, and now he is the leading tipster for Ireland for AtTheRaces.com. And he won't come on the Final Furlong Podcast anymore because the diesel business is just too good. Please give a huge welcome to Tony Keenan!
Never heard of him.
And finally, an award-nominated journalist for his work at AtTheRaces.com, a winning racehorse breeder, the race planner to Joseph O'Brien, and in his spare time he does some TV work for Sky Sports Racing as well. He also is my partner in crime on the Final Furlong Podcast. Give it up for Kevin Blake! So we're going to start with the championship races. Straight into it. Here is your starter for 10, the Champion Hurdle on day one. Barry, we'll start with you. You're on the favourite. Bouvier, you were going for the hat-trick. He looked absolutely sublime at Newcastle in front of the At the Races, now Sky Sports Racing cameras, when he blitzed Sam Crow, but beaten in the Christmas Hurdle. And then he had that nonsense race in Sandown where we learned nothing. How is he since, and how happy are you with him as you go for the hat-trick?
He's in good form. He worked well last Saturday morning. I rode him in Niki's. He's in good shape. He won the race in Sandown as he's won it for the previous 2 years. You know, it's a box ticking exercise if you like. He wouldn't be revved for it. It fits in well time-wise. It was obviously a bit of a shock. He was beaten in Kempton at Christmas. But on the same token, he beat the new one 12 months before that, and he wasn't overly impressive there. So I'd say it's a track that doesn't play to his strengths. Whereas I would feel Cheltenham does. He's been there now. He's won 2 champion hurdles. He was second to Altior on the Supreme Novice Hurdle. third.
We have the swats up the front now, lads.
Was he third? What was second?
Man.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. It's great that Norval is here in the audience to correct Barry. To be fair, at the time, Jared Sullivan owned him, so it didn't really bother Barry at the time.
No.
To be fair, Barry, you did say it would have been second if you'd been on him, but Feely was on it, so you said,
I said that to you discreetly, Matt.
There's nothing discreet about this panel.
Well, that's well.
Trust me.
So anyway, but it's obviously a much stronger race than it was looking. It was going to be a few months ago. Apple's Jade, what she did in Leopardstown was brilliant. She showed great pace. I thought she was vulnerable over 2 mile on that ground, but she annihilated the opposition. So she's, sit up, take note. She's going to take beating. Lorena is still a little bit of an unknown.
You had some interesting points to make about her in your At the Races comment, because that was a 2-horse race and you were on the second. So can you give us your further assessment on Lorena?
She has been impressive. She was very impressive last season. It's hard to say she was impressive when she won in Punchestown last time. She beat all she had to beat, and she beat them, but she didn't tear them apart. The race in Sandown, the Fillier Road travelled with her. She turned out to be in season and disappointed next time. So, you wouldn't have come away from that race saying, oh, well, that's the champion hurdle winner. But that's not saying she isn't going to threaten or she won't beat us. I think the ground will be on the slow side. She stays well, which obviously plays well for both reasons in Cheltenham and on that ground. But I just wonder would she have the pace to deal with the top two. And I'd be more concerned about Apple's Jade than Lorena, really.
Of all the rides you have, how confident are you about Bouvetard?
I have a very good book of rides, but they're all, vying for favouritism. So I would be as confident in Bouvetard as I would be in others. I think he's, he has a task too. He's given £7 to the 2 fillies, but he has great course form, so it does count for a lot. Niki Henderson has trained more champion hurdle winners than anyone else. He knows, especially with 2-milers, how to get them there. So you couldn't be any happier. You wouldn't swap him, but I'm just hoping for the right result.
And in your eyes, who's your biggest danger?
Oh, Apple's Jade is the biggest danger, no doubt. And Lorena's a dark one. Esport Allen's a dark one. Verdana Blue got beaten on the flat in Kempton lately. I don't think Sharjah is up to this level. Mellon hasn't been doing much this year. Brainpower could actually run well and could sneak into a place if he was ridden to be placed.
Okay. Matt, your assessment of the champion hurdle?
Look, there are a lot of cliches in horse racing, and Barry will probably reel out another one in a minute and say, you try winning a champion hurdle. But we know that Bouvetard has won 2 crap champion hurdles in reality. He's beaten Mellon and Mick Jazz last year. No one in this room is getting vaguely excited by that. And then the year before, he beat the old pensioner, My Tens or Yours, who never wins, and Petit Mouchoir, who, again, no one is remotely excited about. So you've got the 2 place horses in both champion hurdles that are effectively in the great realms of things. They're all horses we'd love to own, and we'd love to have them and pat them at home. But as far as champion hurdles are concerned, they're really not very good horses in this kind of category. So for 2 potentially really good mares to get £7 from Bouvetard, Bouvetard not only has to be, right at the top of his game, but the £7, which I personally don't think they should get anyway. I think they should all run off levels, but that's a different story. It's a big, big ask for Bouvetard, I think, this. And I actually think the opposite to Barry in that I think Lorena is the monster horse in this race. Although I'm really delighted Apple's Jade's in there, I think this trip will probably be a bit short for her. And also, I don't think she's necessarily that good at Cheltenham, judged by her record so far. And added to that, I think the jockey's going to have to go off like the clappers. And it just sets it up for Lorena, who will get first run on Barry, stays stronger than Barry, and is a better horse than Barry, and it has Ruby Walsh on board. So
Barry's not the horse is Bouvetard.
When you add all that cocktail together, you have a really good night out. So I'm all over Lorena. She's built like a brick house. She actually would give you a hell of a night out. She is a tremendous animal, and I'm very, very confident Lorena is going to destroy. I don't think she'll just win. I think she will absolutely destroy them. And I'm looking forward to the... Bouvetard is not see you then. Barry knows it, but he can't say it. He can't sit in there and say, you know what, JP, you've mugged off 2 champion hurdles. He'd have to change his whole garden from little manor statues to actual gnomes. So it's just not going to happen. But I really genuinely, I mean, like, joking apart, I'm all over Lorena. I think she is just different gravy. She's another anti-power. And when you get these mares getting these allowances, it's the allowance that just swings it so much in their favour. Barry, I mean, joking apart, £7.
Yep. Barry, your retort there to Matt's very bullish assessment of Lorena.
Look at what did
Can't
they say?
disagree with anything I said. They were shit champion hurdles.
They were, yeah, on the book, but...
What do you mean on the book? It is the book.
So...
Can someone make a gif of Barry's face, please?
It's yeah, Bouvier definitely wasn't at his best last year. There was no secret made of that. He didn't make it to Aintree last year as he was so hungover after being unwell in Cheltenham. So, but he put up a good performance in the fight in 5th.
What happens if he has a sore throat this time around? And, to be fair to the race, he's won 16 of his 20 races. But if you go through, he's like 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to 16. You know, it's been a very poor
Does that not
division.
speak for itself?
Yeah, he's running against absolute crap.
Yeah.
How many champions has Lorena beaten?
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Here we go.
It's a fair point to make,
the
though, isn't it?
cliche king is back.
All right. Well, let's bring.
There's another article being prepped.
Let's bring in the cliched king, Kevin Blake.
I'm hearing words, but I'm not hearing an answer.
Good man, Blake. That's it.
Oh,
There'll be a fight in the car park afterwards, and it'll be on pay-per-view and at the races. Blake, your assessment of the champion hurdle. There's a lot being said here, and we've only heard from 2 voices. So bring some sense to this conversation. What do you assess the champion hurdle like?
Oh, Lorena's a certainty.
I've always said he's very intelligent. It's like,
No, look, I think it's very tight between the top 2. Lorena, I don't want to knock her, but for me, it's probably between the front 2. I'd be in the camp that would go along with that. Bouvier maybe hasn't achieved as much as you'd expect a 2-time champion hurdler to have achieved, but this is his chance. He's going to have to give £7 to 2 proper mares, and if he can win this, that's his legacy sealed. But I think if he gets beat here, history will judge him a little bit harshly, which won't necessarily be fair, but I think that's the reality. One thing you'd say
Barry's
is...
bank balance won't, though.
Money's in the bank.
No, the money, but that's exactly it, isn't it?
But
show me the money.
In terms of the way the race is going to pan out, it should pan out beautifully for it should pan out beautifully for Bouvier, you'd imagine, because Charlie Parks is in there. It's no secret what he'll do. Apple's Jade will be bang up there. If they're not going fast enough for Apple's Jade, she can go on. Global Citizen is there. All the ingredients are there for it to be a proper, well-run champion hurdle, and that will definitely suit Bouvier. He's a speed horse, so he'll have every chance. Apple's Jade, her course form would worry you a small bit, but you have to view it in the context that she just looks much better this season, and she hasn't run at Cheltenham this season. So we'll find out more about her at Cheltenham in the champion hurdle, but I wouldn't like to use it as a stone to throw at her. If you put a gun to my head, it's probably Apple's Jade, but only it's a very, very marginal opinion.
Okay, so Apple's Jade just about for you. Tony, this race has transformed from Bouvier being an odds-on favourite when he won the fighting 5th to now being a very open renewal. He's just about favourite ahead of Apple's Jade, Lorena. Is this an appealing betting race to you at all?
I would say Apple's Jade gone off favourite. Like, she's strong in the market every day she's run. She's an absolute public horse. Bouver's been soft enough the last couple of days in the betting to me. She's the horse on the up. And to be honest, I would make her a bet at 2s. I think Bouver's best piece of form is the first champion hurdle that he won. I think Apple's Jade ran to similar level at Leopardstown, but then she's getting the £7. So you're looking at Apple's Jade, who has similar form, plus the £7, and Bouver's form is 2 years old. And she is absolutely thriving this season, to my mind. A lot of red herrings there, but stuff about not handling Cheltenham. There's been an excuse every day. She was the Triumph Hurdle, she was coming off a horrible preparation. She was in season last year. I just think she's in such good form. She's going to be very, very tough to beat. Lorena's the X factor. I think Bouvier has to be better than ever to beat Apple's Jade. I don't know if you agree with that, Barry, but I think he actually does. He does actually have to be better than ever.
She probably is the biggest challenge he faces, or has faced in the champion hurdle. You couldn't judge him on last year because he did underperform. But no, you'd I would completely accept that you sit up and you take note. You have the champion hurdle won when you've Appleshed beaten, but that's not saying that he won't.
Yeah, absolutely. He could well do that. And I'd also be slightly worried about really good ground for Boover there. They're talking about rain, they're on and off about water. And like the whole talk about Boover there, the first run round his champion hurdle was he wanted soft ground. Like that, he was drifting the bet, and soft never came from. And he was fine, he handled it, and he got soft last year. So I think she probably is more suitable, maybe to a bit of better ground. But yeah, I would see her going off favourite rather than him. That would be my read on the market anyway. And I would like her 2-1.
Okay, and Jamie, if you had the pick of the rides in the race, who would it be?
To be honest, I'd love to see Appleshed just going out and proving that she's the queen of all mares. Like she deserves it. She's 7-year-old. She's 9 Grade 1s won. She's a fantastic mare, and I just hope to God that she goes out and just shows what she's been doing this year. You know, her performances. Look, I've never ridden against her, but the lad said the day in the Hatton's Grace was just incredible. The speed they went early, they all came back in and just said, my God, she absolutely blew them away. And then she backed it up in Leopardstown. I have no doubt. I think she'll win. She's in savage nick. She went around, she done her last bit around Navan there today. She's in great nick. She's kicking, she's biting, she's been a right little bitch. But that's her. That is her, and when she's like that, I'd say no horse is going to get near her. The other side of it as well, last year there has been excuses, as Tony said. Her cycles have been controlled this year. As Davy Russell said, women at this time of the year, it's hard to figure out, but in fairness...
And to be fair, Davy would know. Historically.
Bit harsh now, but he has previous form.
Well, I'm manipulating cycles. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but...
But
Barry,
no, they've done a great job controlling that this year, and no, look, she's the queen of the pack now for me.
And given how adamant the O'Learys were that she was going to go for the Mayor's Hurdle, like she won the Irish Champion Hurdle in devastating style. Eddie immediately said Mayor's Hurdle, but the very next day confirmed for the champion. That has to be a tip in itself.
Yeah, look at as Gordon said. Eddie and Gordon will trash it out, but then Michael will ultimately make the decision, you know, and he did. He came back the next day and said she was going for the champion hurdle, and they're right. You know, there's too many of these horses, they kind of sidetrack races. They have a mare, she's in great nick, the champion hurdle is there, they're going to be taking on a great champion in Bouvet, but it is there to be won, and the £7 is going to be a big thing on the day as well. Look, I think it's all set up for Appleshed on the day.
Okay, Lorena for Matt.
We learned a lot about Eddie, didn't we? We really did with this horse, Kevin. Like, it's clear, Eddie is literally the boot cleaner. Michael is the man who actually owns the boots.
That now is a comment from a man who knows that he's not going to be broadcasting here for the next 4.5 years. So it's perfectly fine.
He might be getting homey, though.
The thing is, though, Eddie's going to be at Cheltenham. And we'll see how much of an interview that Matt can get with Eddie at Cheltenham, how that one works out.
I don't think Michael O'Leary is buying these horses. It's Eddie O'Leary.
It's Eddie buys these horses, and well, Eddie's watching tonight, so good luck with that one, Matt.
There's every chance Eddie's booking the pilots as well, I think.
Who's flying you home?
Hey! Ladies and gentlemen at Ryanair, I believe his flight is 5 a.m. Watch out for him.
On the basis I want luggage with me, I will go Aer Lingus.
But just a quick one for Barry there. Espoir d'Allen, I know you know him well. Would you be surprised if he's up to this now, or would he be one in the back of your mind that you're a little bit worried about?
I wouldn't be shocked. He is a very good horse. He was a very good juvenile. Disappointed once. He put in an ordinary performance when he won in Naas last time, but I think he's better than that. He's not in that intermediate year as a 5-year-old. He'd have to step up a good bit to be involved, but he is a very good horse, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him rock up and run a big race.
If you owned Bouvet and you've got Espoir Allen in there who you know cannot win, wouldn't you do a bit of golden freeze and try and take on Appleshed for the lead and try and ruin her?
They have Charlie Parks for that.
Yeah, that's his job.
Will you do a bit of prep, will you? Jesus.
How long do you think that horse will keep up with Applejade? Not very long. Espo Allen will keep up longer. If you just watch Coolmore, they have more than one spoiler. You have got this fixed, haven't you?
And moving swiftly along, Matt Chapman goes for Lorena, Kevin, Tony,
play. Team McManus.
Jamie Codd and myself all go for Applejade. Barry obviously hoping that he can land a hat-trick on Bouvier and follow in the footsteps of Isterbrack, although Matt Chapman would deny that he is ever in that grade. Very quickly, we'll touch on the mare's hurdle. Benny de Dois. Whatever you want to go for is the even money 11-10 favorite. Kevin, you were in a certain building today where Ruby Walsh was, and he said this is his best chance of a winner at the festival. So screw you, Min, Undersow, Bells Hill, and everything else that Willie Mullins has got.
Yeah, I'm starting to come around to the idea that she's the worst fav of the whole week.
Wow.
I've been thinking about this a lot the last few days, and this is probably the most under-discussed race of the whole week, because there seems to be an assumption she'll go and win. But look, I'll lay it out to you this way. Last year, she had the absolute perfect preparation. She got her prep run in. She got her favourite soft round. The race couldn't have been run better for her. They went absolutely wild up front. Le Bagawa and Applejade up front from 4 out to 2 out, while Ruby was sitting, coasting in behind them, getting a beautiful toe into the race. She's got the split. Everything's went right. And she's fallen in to beat Midnight Tour. That's rated 145 and will never be rated higher than 145. That might be good enough this week now. But Jesus, she's had no prep run. She's probably not going to get her ground. It's odds against that she gets the race run to suit her as well this year. And I think there's some decent mares in there. I know there's a small bit of a paucity of flashy opposition. But geez, I'll take her on at even money. You know, Ruby is saying she's his bet of the week. She's one of those that'll probably go off 4 to 6. I'm inclined to take her on, and like if I had to put up something, like if Limini came back to her form, running close to Applejade and Vroom Vroom a couple of years ago, if she could come back to that, and she didn't run too bad at all behind Presenting Percy over a trip that stretched her, I think, at Gore. And if she could come back, if Willie could work his magic there and get her back to full strength, she could go and win. But if you wanted one at a wild price, and we know we like wild prices.
That's what we're talking about. Come on, Blakey.
Mia Storm is there. I think she's 25s in a place. And I think a 150 horse would be enough. And I think she's probably a 150 horse, lads. She beat Elegant Escape not that long ago over fences. She's back over hurdles. She absolutely lashed up in a handicap hurdle of 142 there earlier this season. And she's dropping back to 2.5 from 3. And I think it'll suit her, because you watch her over 3 and she's jumping a bit like she is. She's jumping a bit chasery. But when the race heats up and they go a bit quicker, she actually flattens out quite well. Stays well, no nonsense ride, targeted at the race. As long as there's not a heap of rain, she'll be fine. And look, at 20 to 1 against a pretty windy fav in my book, I don't think you can go too far wrong.
You can get 25 to 1 with BetBright, but all bets will be voided tomorrow. We see what you're doing, and we will be talking about it on the podcast. She's generally 16s, but one firm is going 25s. Tony, your view in the mare's race?
A couple of things. I wouldn't be so negative now on Benny this year. I think her best form, her best run yet has come on the best ground she's met actually in Punchestown. To me, that was her peak rather than Cheltenham, so I wouldn't be knocking her on the ground. The one thing I would say is, though, Willie Mullins' stable form would still be a worry. Like, he's a lad that operates over the last 3 or 4 years 30% strike rate. Since start of January, he's 19% at the minute. Place horse as well down as well. So, you know, it just hasn't been his season between the ground and very good horses getting injured. Next destination, Draconian, Penn Hill's not running, so little bit of a concern. And I'd say the lads that have been taking on Willie Mullins' favourites and all that since January are probably on good terms with themselves, so it might be something to think about next week. I know you, Kevin, were saying you reckoned it was his biggest challenge yet coming into Cheltenham to try and just not redeem the season.
Turn it around, really.
Yeah.
And look, she's no better man than Willie, but look, it's something to bear in mind. You know, he's proven that he can get his horse at the peak for Cheltenham, but it has to be a doubt in the back of your mind. If you're backing the Willie Mullins horse at 6 to 1, 8 to 1, you can kind of weigh that into the equation. But if you're taking odds on the likes of this mare, geez, you're a braver man than I know. It's, for all the concerns, that's just another one into the pot with Benny Dijo.
He does have a phenomenal record in the race, but Vroom Vroom Mag and Limini got beaten by Applejade in it, so it can happen.
And Benny Dijo's, I don't think she's in the same class as some of those mares that he's running this race. I really don't. Like, she's probably a 150 mare, but geez, 150 mightn't be enough here.
Okay. Tony, final selection for you. Are you going to go with her?
I'll go with her, yeah, but gritted teeth.
Gritted teeth. Barry, for you, Could you be riding one of the Willie mares that JP has?
I'm not sure, to be honest, what a rider, if a ride in the race. But I thought there could be value in Stormy Ireland each way.
Yeah, I quite like her as well. I know there's a lot of talk about the juvenile form, but she pulled like a train the whole way through in the Triumph Hurdle.
She did, and she ran a nice race last time.
Yeah, big time. Jamie, your thoughts?
There's not much to think about. I think Willie's mare Benny de Judas wins. There wouldn't even be a discussion here if Willie's horses were absolutely flying, as Tony said. Like, they're running at 19% strike rate there at the minute, but if they were running at any more back up to his usuals, this mare just wins and that's it. I don't think there's anything there to take it on. Stormy Island, maybe. I just think whatever Willie runs, Limini, Stormy Island and Benny de Ju wins.
And that will be music to Matt Chapman's ears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed that Kevin is so iffy about this horse. I mean, even if you just took Apple's Jade out of her equation, she's absolutely smashed up La Bague Au Roi. She's smashed up Prava Laguna.
You can't take that literally, though. La Bague Au Roi was given a horrendous ride in the Mayor's Hurdle last year. Like, factually, like the sectionals that were set, he went absolutely bananas, Richard Johnson, that day. And that's a factual fact if you look at the sectionals of the race. So you can't take that literally, I'd say. She beat a 145 mare that looked to run a race.
29 minutes, by the way, when factual fact was mentioned, if you were taking the overs.
Look, let's deal in some facts that, I mean, you can literally take whatever you like out of it. I mean, maybe every single horse she's come against is disappointed, but she's unbeaten since coming from France. She's trained by a genius. I don't know how many good horses Willie Mullins is running at the moment. He might be running at 19%, but I haven't seen any of his stars running in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I thought they were going to run at Cheltenham. So I'm not really fussed about what he's sending out at the moment. All I know is that the owner thinks it's a good thing. Ruby Walsh thinks it's a good thing. The champion trainer of Ireland thinks it's a good thing. And it's not even odds on in one of the worst and weakest races at the festival, which is exactly what it should be, because mares races should be weak. This should be... It should, because this race should be restricted to horses rated 0 to 105, so that the good mares are forced to take on the big horses, which is... So Apple's Jade doesn't become a 1 to 10 shot, because we all know that in general terms, if you ran a cellar at the Cheltenham Festival, then Jigginstown would run Apple's Jade in that just so that they get a winner, because they have to show we've had a Cheltenham Festival winner.
Sorry, who was the leading owner at the festival last year?
It's Jigginstown.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't care what they win as long as they win, because it's about proving, it's about showing the world that they're men and they've got money and they can do this.
They're running Apple's Jade in the champion hurdle, not the mare's hurdle.
Well, they're only doing that because of peer group pressure.
Do you think that Michael O'Leary gives in to peer group pressure? The man who keeps shouting pilots at him.
Absolutely. The pilots disappeared and he gave in to them and they all came back.
Took a long time before he gave in. Anyway, if you want to follow Chapman
we won't even mention the plane that got stuck. Where did it get stuck? In Antwerp or Belgium or something?
If you want to follow Matt Chapman in, you can take 11 to 10 with Coral. I can't imagine that's going to last too long with the confidence the Chappers is putting behind it.
This thing, when this hacks up, just remember this conversation and the rubbish that's been said by some of these people.
Right. Day 2. The feature race is the Champion Chase. Very quickly, hands up. Who thinks Altior is going to win? Kevin Blake, Tony Keenan, Barry, Jamie.
I don't think I know.
He's going to win.
Okay.
Obviously. Does anybody have an each way bet against him?
No.
Then we'll move on. He goes and wins. You can throw him in your Accas. You can put him in your Lucky 63s, whatever it is you want.
Anybody in the crowd fancy something against him? Quick, go on.
Man in the front.
Min
without Altior. What's that going to be? 2's on.
Ooh.
Evens. That can't be even money.
Altior's 1 to 2. Min without Altior is evens. Min is the second best speedy chaser in training.
I'll take the even money. That'll be a dick.
That's inspired. You know what?
That's
Apple's Jade has got a
bet,
chance without Bouverdere as well. That's inspired stuff.
I'd take the even money about that. That is a Declan Ricks bet. Right. Day 3.
You won't put your hand up again, will you?
He's at the top of the class for a reason.
The Ryanair Chase, as we move to the new track for day 3. Footpad has been a big market mover today. He's into 3 to 1, 7 to 2 at a lot of firms. Monolith. Kevin, I'll kick off with you. I know he's not your biggest, but you do really like Monolith. He was very good last time at Corn Park.
He was, yeah. And look, I've been a bit sickened the last 2 years. Like Henry and his owner have had a tricky choice there the last 2 years. They were very much torn between the mid-range race and the stay-in race. They went for the stay-in race twice, the Albert Bartlett and the RSA, and he's run very well both times. Look, he clearly stays. But I thought all along that a mid-range trip where he gets a lead, he clearly is very effective when he's making the run, and I think he'd be better again if something like Frodon now was going a real strong gallop out in front in the Ryanair, and Monaghy could track him and follow him. I think that would show him to absolute maximum effect. I hope he runs here. I was speaking to Henry the other day for a stable tour with ATR, and Jesus, he was kind of worryingly windy about the decision now that they could go Gold Cup, which I wouldn't like, but ultimately their horse, if that's what they do, that's what they do, but I think you'd have a smashing chance.
Did you not tell him that you wouldn't get the Kevin Blake seal of approval if he was to go for the Gold Cup?
I gave him my theory and all. He didn't tell me I was talking shite now, but he...
That's good. That's good.
So hopefully he goes that way. But the other bit of... And I know the market's probably telling you the story.
They might have thought that goes without saying.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the market's probably telling you now. But I think Simon Muneer was telling a few people at a Cheltenham preview last night that footpads pretty much decided he's going to go here.
Yeah, Daryl Jacobs said it as well at the preview.
Yeah, I think that's the vibe. So that's what you're weighing up. And I respect Footpad. Look, if he came back to his best, I loved him last year. Loved him last season. How couldn't you? But geez, he's been a bit disappointing. They're going to run him with no hind shoes because he's overreaching. It's just been a bad preparation for him. I think, and Willie doesn't agree, I think he might prefer a bit of softer ground that he's going to get as well. So look, Manley, I hope he runs. I hope there's a couple of front runners in the race. And I think he could put on a bit of a show. I think we'll see the very best version of Manley in those circumstances.
Okay, so Manley for you. Tony Keenan, on to you. Manley for Blake. What about yourself in the Ryanair?
A couple of things about Manley. Like, Henry de Bromhead's a bit of a romantic, isn't he? Like, he does he runs horse. Like, Season John was looking at Duvan's arse over fences for 3 or 4 runs that year, and he ran again in the Arkle, maybe when the GLT was there for the taking. Size in Europe, maybe that was governed by the owner. They were trying to make a Gold Cup horse out of him. So I wouldn't say it's a million that he does go to Gold Cup. That sort of attitude seems to be there. Geez, Kevin, I think there'll be 4 or 5 or 6 horses in this that have better form than Manley. I think he's one of the worst favourites of the week now. I don't know. I'm not seeing this at all. The clock would say like he is the 5th or 6th best horse in the race. I wouldn't really be a Footpad fan. I think he won a complete pace collapse in the Arkle last year. I think you'd be better judging him off the Leopardstown run because not every race develops like that. The raids on Petit Mouchoir and St Calvados were suicidal from the 2 jockeys there. And he's had 2 overreaches this year. Troubled prep for the thing. Wouldn't really love him. Ground's probably going to be a bit quick for Untitled. Frodon runs these big figures, but it's all oftentimes in handicaps. So the horse I was coming for, I know you won't believe this, Emmet, a fancy an English horse, and I know you can't.
You fancy
it.
Frodon?
No, fancy Fox Norton.
Oh, Foxy!
Get out of here!
Yeah.
How old Foxy?
Cheltenham Festival horse. Love the way he's been brought back. You don't want him blowing his brains the first run back of a long injury. He's been built back up to it. If Serename is the best horse in training, look, Altior's the best horse in training, but the figure he did in Ascot was savage. Should the 2nd and 3rd then not be very good horses?
He was beaten 18 lengths.
He still ran to a good figure that's going to build up. Ascot isn't going to be his track. 3rd run off a break, on to Cheltenham. He's double figures. I thought he had a bit of a chance, and I think the front end of it is a little bit flaky.
All right. Well, look, he's into 10-1 today, so obviously somebody is following your work. Barry, for you, are you going to have a ride in the race? And if you had your pick, who would it be?
Possibly Hell's Kitchen, but he's not good enough. I'd agree with Tony, though, with the flakiness of the head of the market. And personally, I'd go on the Sioux on his run in the Tingle Creek behind Altior. There is rain forecast. If it's on the slow side, all the better. But they're not the strongest bunch, and I think on the Sioux is, he's been there and he's done it. He's proven.
Jamie, that was one hell of a run from Untitled in the Tinkle Creek. He really made Altior put out all the stops that day, and we know how good he is. He's not really getting the credit he deserves this time around.
No, he's an absolute tiger. I'm with Barry all day on this one. I thought his run behind Altior in the Tingle Creek is the best form here. Monaghy should win, but I think Untitled is just a hardened campaigner, and I think if they get a drop of rain, look at he could go back to the Arkle either if the heavens opened, but
well, won't go back to the Arkle, but the champion chase.
If the heavens open, but I'd say the Ryanair the way the ground is at the minute is set up for him, and I think his form is rock solid, and I'd be siding with him definitely.
And you could just draw a line under last year's performance behind Balco the Flow. That clearly wasn't him that day for whatever reason.
I don't think so. Like, and it just if he backs up the run from the Tingle Creek,
yeah,
I'd say that's rock solid.
Okay, Matt, we've had one tip for an English horse. So you on the Irish side or the British side here?
I mean, I was kind of thinking a bit of everyone in some ways, in that I thought if the ground was good or good to soft, Monolly, and if it was soft or heavy, Underso. And it kind of, I was split between those. Footpad, I just think, is massively overrated. He was really exciting last season, but when you actually look at the Arkle, it was a desperate race with the two nutters who went off like as if they all back Footpad, and even then, and then even Footpad made, didn't actually jump that well and basically just fell in because, as I say, the nutters were on it. Frodon, I think he's more likely to go here than Gold Cup now, and he's not without a chance. You can't ignore Frodon. I'm not very excited about it, to be honest. But Monolly, it's a long time since he's actually won a Grade 1, and he has had jumping issues, but he seems, in the main, to be a good jumper. Thought he jumped really well for Blackmore the other day. If she got the ride over Feely, I wouldn't be that fussed because she's a bit like Bryony Frost. She seems to get them jumping.
Has Noel Feely pissed you off or something? That's the second time you've had a go at him tonight.
No, lovely lad. These jockeys can understand you talking about the game. It's nothing personal. You're talking about the horses. But I definitely wouldn't fancy Footpad. Absolutely no way, Jose. I go Monolly if the ground's good and Underso if it's bottomless. I mean, he's 11-year-olds never won the Ryanair. Admittedly, the Ryanair hasn't gone very long. But, your gut feeling is he's getting on a bit. But as I'm, of course, going to tip Faheen shortly, I can't go on too much about age.
All right, well then let's stick with you as we move on to the stairs hurdle. Paisley Park is 13-8. Faheen into 4-1 now. You love this horse. You are the senior member of the Faheen fan club in the stairs hurdle.
He's the most magnificent beast I've seen for a very long, well, actually since I woke up.
That's an image
well, it's just
nobody in the audience or watching at home wants it tonight.
If you've got it, why not admit it? But anyway, he is a fantastic horse, Faheen. He's an absolute monster of an animal. Paisley, look, I don't think there's any competition in this race. I think absolutely one or t'other or one will win. It will be Paisley Park or it will be Faheen. Paisley Park has emerged from nowhere and has the perfect running style for this race. Stays really strongly, can just run in the middle of the pack, can go forward, he can do anything he likes on Paisley Park from what we've seen. And the horse clearly has a favourite's chance. But he's never met anything like the class of Faheen. Although I will get shouted down here by some people, I am absolutely sure Faheen would have beaten Apple's Jade if he hadn't fallen. Ruby had just looked round. Ruby is certain. He told the owner he was going to win it. I have no doubt in my mind he was going much, much better than Apple's Jade at that stage of the race. I appreciate the Apple's Jade fan club will disagree, but they need to go and watch the race. Faheen showed there that he's still got an engine. And the other thing is, only in April last year, he destroyed the stairs hurdle winner in Penn Hill. And again, admittedly, most of you lot seem to have backed Faheen that day. But despite getting that easy lead at the start, he still showed he's a monster horse. And Paisley Park's not met anything like this. It's the pace at halfway in this race that is going to change this race to anything that Paisley Park's ever had. If Faheen is skipping along Faheen pace midway, Paisley Park is going to be niggled to keep up because his pace is in a different league to anything he's ever faced before. So the machine will win, but if he retires, it will be Paisley Park.
So if he does a big bucks on it, it'll be Paisley Park. Jamie, what Faheen did at Punchestown was sublime, but the quotes afterwards, they talked about going novice chasing with them. They talked about possibly a tilt at the 4-miler. They were all over the shop in terms of where he was going to go between Rich Ritchie and Willie Mullins.
National Hunt Chase.
They were
Are you sure you read that
They
right?
were going to, Patrick Mullins wanted him in the 4-miler, and Rich Ritchie was happily talking
Patrick
about
Mullins wants every horse in the Mullins
Hence
Garden
why
in the
Ballyward
4-miler.
is going for it. If you wouldn't mind, though, I would quite like to speak to the former champion amateur Jamie Cott. Thanks very much. As we move along, as at 11 years of age, is this the kind of preparation? The last time he did that in Ireland, Ted Walsh destroyed him. In Leopardstown. He was walking around like a ghost afterwards. Jamie, is this a case of Faugheen's last chance, the last roll of the dice for him? Or do you really think they can actually win the stairs?
I think it is competitive. It's been competitive in Cheltenham. This is his last roll of the dice, definitely. And he's the classiest horse in this race. Paisley Park has come through there. Paisley Park finished 18th maybe last year in the Albert Bartlett. He was absolutely mapped, and he's come on this year and he's ran. He's won his Grade 1 and he's been back. But like Faugheen on form is just better than all of these. I suppose if you're looking for a horse maybe with a bit of form to come back to, is Kilbrick and Storm. Went chasing, didn't jump well enough over fences, and now he's back in a stairs hurdle, and he had all those horses beaten last year in the Albert Bartlett. So he's a tough hardy horse. Colin Tizard's horses are coming back to a bit of form. If you're looking for something for a bit of value, he's probably the one. But Faugheen on what he is, he probably should win this.
So Matt, you got backed up there by Jamie. Faugheen 4-1. Barry, what about you? Stairs hurdle.
We're all in the Matt camp. Yeah, I think Paisley Park is very opposable. Faugheen or Super Sunday for me. But Faughin's run in Punchestown, I think that's at a way higher level than what Paisley Park has done this year.
Does Super Sunday really stay 3 miles in your view?
I wouldn't judge him on last year's race. It was a very slow run race last year. And if anything, he might have lacked the pace where Penhill had the pace. That would be the question mark about him, where Faugheen on the other hand is proven. That's what I'd be. I think Paisley Park will struggle to even deal with the two of them.
Wow. Okay.
Well, they're the best opposition he's met so far this year.
And to be fair, Super Sunday is bringing in the Appleshade form. So if she's gone and won the champion hurdle, you won't be happy about that,
even
obviously.
if she's a good second in the champion hurdle, Super Sunday, still it's good form.
Good second to Bouvier, obviously.
Obviously, that's
Tony, 3 votes for Faugheen. Is it just that last roll of the dice for Willie? Can you see it?
Oh, jeez, I couldn't be more negative on this Faugheen.
Let him have it, Tony. Let him have it.
Look, he was 10 or 12 to 1 a fortnight ago, and 100% that was probably a bet, 10 or 12 to 1. He's 4 to 1 now, right? What have we got? Last season, a lot of yo-yo performances, up and down. Punchestown, he's robbed a bit of a lead, and nothing else has been able to get into it. It's a good run, though, right? This year, he's punted off the boards in the Morgiana, and Sharjah beats him, right? It beats him well. Now, the Mullins' crowd are talking out of both sides of their mouth. Some are saying he was very fit. Some are saying he wasn't fit at all. So we don't really know where we are with that. Now, sectional times would say he hadn't a hope in hell of picking up Appleshade in Leopardstown the way it was run. Regardless of that, all we have is a slowly run race in Leopardstown where Ruby says he was travelling. It's a slowly run race. They're all fucking travelling, right? It doesn't mean anything. Right? So that's what we've got. We've got a bad run in the Morgiana, and Ruby telling us he was travelling well, and he's 4 to 1, and he's 11, and he ran badly at the festival last year. Now, I can make me peace of backing him at 10 to 1, but a 4 to 1, I think he's a pretty bad price. So Paisley, Kevin, you want in on Faugheen as well?
I'd be in it much the same, but I think he was going to run well behind Appleshade. But as much what you say is a factual fact. Now they went very steady that day, and he was spotting Appleshade, whatever it was, 2 or 3 lengths there at the second last. It was a big task to pick her up. But the one thing I'd say about the performance was, with a view to the stairs hurdle, you'd be delighted with it because he settled and he jumped and he did things right, which would always be a concern about a champion hurdler going up that far in trip. So I was happy with him that day. And like you now, I was kind of singing a bit in the Faugheen hymn sheet now when he was 14, 12, 10s, but I think people have got a bit excited now the type of price he is now. I'd love to see him run well. Jeez, would tear the place down if he did, but Paisley Park, lads, if you're sending an order off to the factory to make a stairs hurdle horse, he'd be what you'd send off the order for. You know, he stays really well. He's always a little bit behind the bridle. He's efficient.
Is that a crock of shit, though? This thing about them behind the bridle, like most of the yokes that are behind the bridle are then falling out the back of the telly 2 furlongs out. Like when Solwit won the stairs hurdle, he fucking sat on the bridle the whole way, and I'll tell you, Davy Russell was very happy. Big Bucks was this bloody exception, a super horse that came off the bridle in English Drever. But I'll tell you, I can't speak to you, lads. I'd say you'd love to be travelling 2 furlongs out and onto the pump.
I doubt Davy was happy when Solwit was travelling on the bridle.
Yeah, maybe.
And Carberry sitting on him.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. That's fair. I'm sorry. That's fair enough. You got me there, Barry. But I don't know. I'd rather be sitting on a yoke that's travelling in any race than a yoke that's pumping along.
If you have a lad who has the pace but races behind the bridle is what you want. Like big bucks used to hit the flat spots. You never saw Ruby hit him a tear down the neck around the arse on these flat spots because the flat spot was only a bit of a smoke screen, if you like. Because when he wanted the horse and he give him a proper kick and a squeeze, vump, off he went. That's what you want. You know, is a classy horse who's not running with the choke out. Because any horse going with the choke out, they're going to pay the price for that in the last half a mile. So, but I think Paisley Park is slower. I don't think he is behind the bridle, but he's also slow behind the bridle. He's not, running in third gear, waiting to explode.
I don't know, lads. Like he was taking on, and I know you'll slag me for saying that he was taking on all the best staying hurdlers in England last time. And I know there's much better horses in Ireland. But Jesus, lads, he absolutely whomped them, and the race was over at the last. The way he picked up.
There were moments in that race when he wasn't always travelling.
But I think that's him.
But if he's not travelling against horses like Sam Spinner, he might not travel against a horse like.
But it was a well-run race. That's
overly strongly run, I would say.
Low standards.
You've got a bit confused somewhere along the line with your behind the bridle.
I'm always confused, actually. You know, because standard like.
Because trust me, when Apple's Jade was against Faheen, no other horse in that race was travelling when Faheen came down. They were all fucked.
Because there was all rubbish behind him.
Yeah. Exactly. So they weren't all on the bridle, I'm afraid. That is just absolute
If you look back at Papamna, he was fairly travelling at the second last.
Yes, but he was about half a mile behind them.
Yeah, you can look at that. The jockey with that.
But look,
he's only beaten 26 and a half lengths.
But I'd be delighted with Paisley Park. I think in a better race, which this clearly is now in the Stayers Hurdle, I think he'll be better again because they can ride him with a little bit more patience. He'll get a lead for longer because I don't think he's a horse you want hitting the front too soon. And I'd say the last day was the first day he ever really galloped away. He saw his 2 ears up in the air, but he galloped away, to be fair. I was really impressed with that. And look, Faheen...
What horse doesn't have 2 ears up in the fucking hair? Like, they all have ears on the top of their head and they all go up in the air.
Do you ever fucking watch racing at all, do you? Jesus.
Well, you'll be telling me that a horse who's got his ears pricked has lots left in the locker, except when they cross the line, they all have their bloody ears pricked.
They don't when they're fucking noses on the ground, exhausted. But look,
racing nonsense.
I'd be delighted with Paisley Park. I think he's just what you want for the race. Look, the price is squeezing up away the whole time. But if you're asking me for the winner, it's Paisley Park.
All right.
After all, you're the favourite. Thanks, Kev.
Tony, for you?
There's a couple of outsiders to give a bit of chance to. I'd give Black Up a bit of a chance. He went way too hard the last day. Savage run last year at the meeting behind Sam Crow. That was very good on the clock. I don't buy that he's a non-stayer, to be honest. I think he, coming back from chasing, excellent run in the Cleve. Bit better ground than suit. Have I, Johnny? I have.
Don't be listening to me order, lads. Keep going.
Anyway, I'd give him a bit of a chance, and I think Willie has a couple that have a chance there. But Cardy's off a similar prep to last year. He was running well at Leopardstown at Crisps. And, yeah.
Johnny's got you covered, lads.
When you said there were fluffers tonight, I didn't know that's what you meant.
Just in that confusion, Tony, can you just confirm your selection for the Stayers Hurdle?
I give Black Up a bit of a chance.
Black Up, all right. Tony, going to stay with you for the feature race, the biggest race of all, racing's blue ribbon, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Now,
hey, quiet down the back.
Wished up. We're about to hear from Tony Keenan here for the biggest of them all, the Gold Cup. Now, I think it's fair to say that presenting Percy is the people's horse. Well, the man of the people is Tony Keenan. He's the man of the people. That's why you want to read his column on At the Races. That's why you want to hear him on the Final Furlong Podcast as well. So as the man of the people, you surely are cheering on the people's horse, presenting Percy for Ireland.
Man, I just cannot get behind this horse at all.
You're miserable.
No, hold on now, hold on. Right.
So
no. Forget about just not talking about the horse form and all that for a minute. I just cannot get behind this horse as a public horse, right? I can live with the whole Druids Lodge Confederacy stuff that's gone on there. Like, I think Pat Healy was down meeting with Pat Kelly today. He probably got dropped off and knocked and travelled in a balaclava in 3 different cars down there. Like, I get that, yeah. But I really don't. I don't care about him not giving interviews. Who cares? Your man Reynolds does give good feedback. But like, how is the story here not that Pat Kelly has had a positive cobalt test with a pint-to-pinter last September? right? And it has been dealt with wholly honest, satisfactorily by the IHRB, and it's just been left in thin air. No one has given us any information. We're talking about a public horse here, and this is not the story, right? This is the favourite for the Gold Cup. Should be a story. It's unsatisfactory to me. I've read the stuff on the IHRB. I've read the reports after. Nothing to do with his chance. But I'd like sort of that mentioned. Like, it's relevant. So I'm saying, public horse, not for me. Now, you want to talk about his chance in the race. The big reason he has a chance in the race is, to me, he's coming from a very strong crop of staying novice chasers last year, right? He hasn't run over fences yet, but you've all these horses are winning all the races. The second season chasers. Rathfinden, Bobby Joe Chase, Elegant Escape, Welsh National, Kemboy, Monolly, all this kind of stuff. I still can't be having the preparation as ideal. You're not setting out a season to not jump a fence in public. Like, I just can't be having that as ideal. He's a horse that thrived on racing, both as a novice horde looking into the Pertemps and last year going to the RSA. Plenty of racing. So, not for me. I don't know what point he has to get that he'd have to be a bet. He's 4-1. Probably I think he's going to drift realistically. But, yeah, I don't know. That'd be my take on him anyway.
Can we see your socks, Tony Keenan?
Oh, jeez, he sucks.
He likes them so
Let's
much.
see the socks, Tony Keenan. Let's see the socks.
Throw up your leg there, Keenan.
I dropped my leg.
Throw 'em up.
No, this is terrible.
I really hope the camera can get it. What is that? Philip Reynolds colours on his feet, and then he's throwing stones at presenting Percy. Kevin, on the final furlong during the week, you said that you reckon Paul Nicholls' horse, Clan de Sobo, will go off favoured in the end. You think he'll be the one for public money?
I think, well, not even public money. I just think he's had the best preparation. He has the best form this year. He's very much on the up. He looks like the King George now. I think I was very happy to throw stones at that, but to be fair to him, he's come out last time and backed it up and maybe more. I have no fears really about trip, track, ground. He has to be fab. He has to be fab. And I'm coming from a fella that loves presenting Percy as a horse. Jeez, he's a fabulous horse. What he did in the RSA, and lads, time can kind of blur your memory a bit. Go back and watch the RSA again. Jesus Christ, he was impressive. He really, really was. And if he turns up in that shape, he'd be a danger to anything. But like Tony says, the preparation, I wouldn't be getting as excited as some people, but it's not ideal. It's clearly not ideal. And it's all about price. Right now, they're very similar. I suspect they won't be similar on the day. I could see Clan de Sobo going off clear fav. He's probably the one I lean with. I'd be happy if presenting Percy won, just because I really like the horse. But just, unless he drifts to, 6-1, that's when you're starting to tempt me. And I recall we were sitting here having a similar conversation last year with Percy and Monolly. There was very little between them at the prices, and it was a real toss-up for me at the time. But this, I wouldn't like to put much between them, but Clan de Sobo, when you add it all up, he'd be the marginal call. But fabulous race and prospect now. Can't wait for it.
Strange one with Clan de Sobo, right? So he won the King George, and he is sat at 9 or 10-1 for that. The Gold Cup straight after that hasn't been a bean for him, right? And as soon as he goes to Ascot, he beats Terrafort, who isn't really in form.
Is rubbish.
That's rubbish. He isn't really in form. And now he's 7-2. Now, I actually am a fan of Clan de Sobo. I've backed him. But 3.5-1, he's getting bloody tight, isn't he? But I actually don't really read too much into the Cheltenham stuff, because I think he's just a different horse this year. I think they figured out how to ride him. You don't want to get there too soon. But geez, he's tight at the minute now for a horse with plenty of doubts.
But you run through the market, and you've got Percy, we've talked about him. You've got Native River, who's there we go.
Hey, it's back.
He's ultimately priced on what he did last year.
Yeah.
He got a fairly unique set of circumstances last year that he seems unlikely to get this year in terms of the ground. You couldn't be delighted with his couple of runs this season. So, he is what he is. Kemboy, do you believe his last win? Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't. I want to see him do it again. Might bite. He's been off to Lourdes. He'll need a bit of help, I'd say. I don't know if a soft palate cauterization will be enough to bring him back to life. But clearly, if it does, he'll have a chance. But Jesus, windy. Bells Hill, Cheltenham record. I like the horse. I'd have him as an each-way alternative. But geez, that Cheltenham record would frighten you a little bit. And then you're down to blah blah. It's really about the big two for me. And I won't repeat myself now, but Clan de Sobo, but only marginally.
Okay, Tony, you've backed Clan de Sobo at a decent enough price. You're gone off him now at that price, right?
I think he's too short at the minute. Look, if Might Bite and Native River can run to the form of last year's Gold Cup, they've £6 or £7 in hand. Now, I think there's doubts with both of them. Mate Bait especially, obviously, just hasn't been in form. And Native River, to me, I wouldn't think he can run to that level on good ground. I think he'd revert back more to the time he was placed behind Size and John. So basically, to me, you've got a whole host of horses that are in around the 165 level, which leaves it very, very open. They're presenting Paisley and Clondezobo, the two that could probably be better than that, but priced accordingly. The two horses I would be interested in, but it would be two horses that are ground dependent both ways. I think Alboom Photo probably has a bit more to give. He has two concerns with him, jumping, and he probably wants soft ground. If he got the soft ground, I'd be interested in him. And I think Road to Respect has been a little bit overlooked. Generally don't like horses come back for the race the second time, but he's a good record at the festival, won the festival plate or whatever it is. Last year, Gold Cup, travelled away lovely. Ground was against him and didn't jump great on the second circuit. This season is pretty good for him. Won well up and down Royal, wouldn't get carried away with the form, but won well. Christmas, obviously, disaster, ran very well after the bit of trouble, and I'd say Ruby shafted him a bit now in the Irish Gold Cup. Ruby was magic down the back on Bell's Hill. He was out jumping him, but letting Road to Respect straight on. And there aren't too many Noel Meade horses that like front running. To my mind, they prefer to be dropped in a bit of cover. Bigger field here might suit him. I think he'd certainly be interested in the place market now. If there was decent ground, I think that he might be one in that regard.
Barry, in the Gold Cup last year, Annabelle Fly ran a cracker. I presume you're going to be on him again. But if we just take the front two, because they've been mentioned by Tony and by Kevin, Native River and Might Bite. I know Might Bite was very impressive at Aintree afterwards, but they went hard for a long, long way out. Did that race just finish them? Has it taken an awful lot out of them?
I wouldn't think so. Native River, I thought ran well in the King George on a track that he'd hate. For me, Native River is the one. Might Bite bled at Christmas, I believe, and his dam was a chronic bleeder, so that's going to be an issue along the way. Presenting Percy beat Bapuma in Goran and Kilulta Vic. Kilulta Vic finished last behind Mona Lee in Goran on the 2.5 mile chase. Bapuma before that was beaten by Early Doors in the Christmas hurdle, so that's not good form. He was a very good novice last season, Presenting Percy, and good horses can overcome a lot of things as novices, and they can be very impressive. But for him to beat Native River, who is the one for me that we all have to beat, he'll have to be at his best. His form isn't strong enough. His preparation isn't ideal. I can't have him. I think he's a very good horse, but he's too much on his plate. Clondezobo won his last two races, both of them going right-handed. His previous 3 runs, he was beaten on left-handed courses. He's not from 4 around Cheltenham. How can you make a case for him as favourite?
It's a fair shout. It's a very, very fair shout. So it's Native River.
For me, it's Native River. The Gold Cup last year was end to end, and
it was some spectacle.
It was, but if there was less pressure on the front end, would suit Native River better because he could go a consistent gallop. Where it was an absolute war last year. I was a big Might Bite fan at the start of the season, but he's completely imploded. As I say, Native River's the one for me, and I think Annabelle Fly could run well each way chance.
Jimmy, some very interesting points made by the 3 Ls. Just before I bring you in, Tony, you want to make one more
Barry,
point?
was there anything to be said for just the Gold Cup last year? Was there a track of better ground along the inside? It just, the two of them had it to themselves the whole way.
They have it to themselves, but the horses behind them ran it too.
I just wonder, there's the ground a bit tacky out beyond. Some of the ones seemed to weren't travelling at all. Air Duke, now maybe he just wasn't.
You'd have about 4 yards of fresh ground, so you'd have most horses on it. And as I said, the horses behind as well. You get the odd lad caught out wide. You tell them that's the place to be, but.
All right, Jamie, you've heard 3 very interesting views so far on the Gold Cup. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I'm completely with Barry. Native River, once they go by him, they'll win the Gold Cup. He's tough, he's hardy, he jumps well. I thought he's running Kempton on good ground, going right-handed. He was jumping left the whole way, and he's still only beaten about 13 or 14 lengths in the King George. I just think if the ground softens up a little bit, and he's able to turn it into a fair test in the Gold Cup, I'd say they're just going to have to go by him. I can't have Clondezobo. I agree with Barry. His form around Cheltenham is dire. He ran in the Triumph many years ago and finished 6th or 7th behind Joseph's.
Ivanovic Gorbachev.
Yeah, do you know, like there was plenty. I know Apple's Jade and all that were in it that day, but look, he's a good horse in his own right, but a Gold Cup is a different proposition. I actually think maybe Elegant Escape for Colin Tizard to come back after winning the Welsh National. I just think he ran well. He likes the extremes, extreme trips, and I think he'll be one that'll be chasing everything home, along with Barry as well, with Annabelle Fly. I thought he stayed on very, very well last year. But I think if it's turned into a real war like it was last year, I'd say Native River is going to be very, very hard to pass. I suppose the unexposed one really is Album Photo, as Tony said. But I don't know whether his jumping is going to hold up.
I think Willie has said he's not going to run in this season unless he gets off ground, and he'll wait till next year with them as well. If that's the case.
I just can't see his jumping holding up in a Gold Cup. So it's Native River really.
All right, that's 2 votes for Native River. Kevin, you want to make a point?
Jamie, would you give any sort of a squeeze to Shattered Love now at a big price?
Yeah, she'd be definitely interesting. She's come back. She had a wind up
since her last run.
Yeah, she's had a wind up, and I think Gordon, like it's been a tight squeeze to get her there, but she's been galloping very, very well in the last kind of 3 weeks, and she's very, very close. It's hard to know where she fits in, but you couldn't rule her out if she did stay the trip. That's the big thing for me. If she stayed, like she has enough gears to be chasing home Min over 2.5 last year, and that, like, so. You know, it's just 3 mile 2 in a Gold Cup. I'm not sure whether she stays.
Yeah, well, she's currently 33-1 with some firms and 25s with Coral's Shattered Love, last year's JLT winner. Matt, big vote of confidence from the 2 lads for Native River. He's still only 9 with all he's achieved. What are your thoughts on the Gold Cup?
I'm absolutely all over Native River. I think he's a fantastic each-way bet. Presenting Percy. There are 2 horses in this race that are built for their jockeys. I think Presenting Percy is absolutely built for Davy Russell, and Native River is built for Kamikaze Richard Johnson. He will chuck this horse at every fence. The horse will respond. Although I've come in general terms, and there are always exceptions like Corto Star, etc. But in general terms, what you want is a dour stare to win the Gold Cup. It's not all about class, the Gold Cup, which is why a lot of very strong stares run into the frame at massive prices, etc. Because the class horses just don't see it out. And for me, this is the only jumps race in the season that actually suits Native River as a Grade 1 chaser. Clan des Obeaux, the thing I don't like about him is he's just going to be restrained at every fence. And I like horses that make a length at fences. And Clan des Obeaux is never going to be allowed to make a length because Harry Cobden is so conscious that he has to keep reining him back. And the problem with that tactic is over a lot of fences, you lose a lot of length. So every time Richard Johnson drives Native River into one and nicks a length, Clan des Obeaux will be losing a length. And if you add all that by the end, it's a lot of distance. So I don't think Clan des Obeaux has beaten anything as well. I personally think...
You can be saving a lot of energy by doing what Harry Cobden is going to do as well.
It's
not all about the big extravagant jumps.
You can, but there aren't many Gold Cups that you could say something has sprinted up the running, even if it's saved energy. Even Corto Star was out on his feet up the running sort of thing. I mean, there aren't many horses that are held back and then sprint up the run in a Gold Cup. You can do that in champion chases and things, but in a Gold Cup, I can't actually think of any horse who finishes off really strongly having been strangled. And for me, I don't think Clan des Obeaux's jumping is going to hold up personally either under pressure in a big field. I'm very suspect there about him. Presenting Percy, I mean, none of us really know. He could just blitz them all because he might just be a better chaser than all of them put together. On the one hand, we've had Tony saying, he doesn't like the fact that one person, Willie Mullins says it's fit and other people say it's fit. Well, with Pat Kelly, you don't have to worry about that because no one knows whether it's ever fit because you never speak to that. Even Davy Russell, when I did a panel with him, he said he never speaks to Pat either as well.
Doesn't know where he lives. Doesn't even know where he lives.
So no one...
sorry, Jamie, just emphasise that again. Davy does not know where Pat Kelly lives.
No, none of us do. Do you know, like it's the greatest mystery of all time. He's down from Galway somewhere, that's all we know.
Does he even train in Ireland? Is he training in the UK instead? Fantastic.
Anyway, coming back to the reality, I just think Johnson and Native River are a marriage made in absolute heaven.
Okay.
And if it continues to rain like it is here, I actually think Native River could possibly even go off. If it's soft or softer than soft, I think Native River will go off favourite, because I think the money will just come for the horse that's been there and done it and loves testing conditions, and we'll see the trip out.
All right, they are the championship races that we have previewed for you. Let's switch back now to novice chases. And if we go back 10 years, there was a very, very special event at this very venue, because 10 years ago at Cheltenham, for Paddy the Plasterer Syndicate were here at the Goat. The owner owns this venue, and Barry Geraghty on our panel rode him that day, so give it up for Barry! Epic finish. And everybody in the Goat was on. So Barry, do we have anything for the Arkle this year that we can all get behind and all lump on in the Goat?
It's not the strongest race of the week, that's for sure. Laylar won really well at Cheltenham, jumped brilliantly back in November. I was really impressed with that, but then got stuffed in Sandown and soft ground. So ground is a little bit of a question mark for him. Glenn Forza, he's a bit of an unknown for me anyway. I was withdrawn at the start in the race in Sandown where he beat Kalashnikov. So how strong was Kalashnikov on the day, you don't know. But Glenn Forza absolutely hosed up, jumped brilliantly. He's a horse who's only matured and come to himself now, so you just don't know how good he is. He could be the one, but it's just not the strongest race. Defi Desai is in here and he's in the JLT. Being honest, I don't know where he goes. The JLT was the plan, especially when Richburg was in the Arkle, but it's thrown open now. If the ground was on the slow side, he could possibly line up here maybe, but if it's better ground, maybe 2.5 would suit.
Is he just better suited, do you think, to 2.5?
Do you know, being honest, I'd fancy him in either race. So if he lined up here, I'd be very happy. If he lined up in the JLT, I'd be very happy as well. But the race itself, what we're looking at, Laylar and Glenn Forza, I don't know, like Glenn Forza's a shot in the dark. I'd be interested to hear what Tony thinks.
Tony? Mick Shannon's horse?
That very strange Arkle. Like, the favourite is coming off a terrible run 3 months ago. You know, very, very unusual Arkle. Front two in the market trained by Keely Wallacott and Mick Channon, one Cheltenham Festival winner between them. Like, it really is a highly unusual race. I think you'd want to be lower in expectations of what you'd be thinking of the winner. I know Hugh Taylor tipped up Duke de Ginevra. He's forgotten more about racing this morning than I'll ever know. But it's only really one run that you can base that off, and that score on the last day. Like the runs prior to that, jumping wasn't great. Looked like he wanted 2.5. I know he was brilliant on the clock the last day, possibly got a little bit of a solo out in front. I really fancied Richburg for this.
Didn't we all?
Look, that's the way it happens. Hard luck on the lads and all that, but what I'm going to do is, working off the theory that I think Richburg was very good, I'm going to take a chance on us and them. I know it looks like he hasn't got a hope on the hard lane form, but I think he's taken a right step forward now for the tongue tie the last twice. On time figures, he's right there in the mix of them. He's an excellent jumper. I hope he doesn't burn himself out in front, because there's loads of pace in it. There's Duke de Ginevra, there's Gary Moore's horse, there's Glenn Forza, obviously. And Barry, to be honest with you, I don't really know what to make of Glenn Forza. Having started out at 3 and gradually bringing him back, I think he's a very hard horse to figure out, but I'd give us and them a little bit of a squeak at a price.
We'll come to Kevin about him later on, because Kevin's got a banker in this race. Matt, Glenn Forza for you, what do you make of him? And what's your assessment of the race?
I've kind of gone with Glenn Forza as well. If he doesn't get taken on for the lead, I think he does quite like a cosy lead, Glenn Forza. But I think he jumps really well. He's come from nowhere, and it's not a great race, to be quite frank.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from that. Jamie?
Hardline. Yeah.
You have stolen someone's thunder, so back it up. Why are you so keen on hardline?
I just think it's going to be set up. It's absolutely fallen apart. Richburg gone out of it. I suppose the big one for me is Defi de Soul. If he did divert back to this, he'll take all the beating. But I just think at a price hardline, he's tough. He jumps well. He's going to be ridden to run very well to come home. And you know, you can pick holes in a lot of the form here with Laylar. Glenn Forsa, Kalashnikov, Paloma Blue doesn't jump. Us and them, I don't know where Tony is coming out. Like, he's been absolutely, he's ran well around Leopardstown behind Larisburg, but like he beat him 4.5 lengths the first day, and he beat him 7 lengths the last day going away. So I don't know, has he taken a step forward? I don't see that. I think
it's the cobalt he's been taking, Tony.
Oh God, no, hold on, no.
Once you stuff Tony with a bit of cobalt, he comes out with a whole load of bollocks.
Usually that's right for cobalt, Matt. I don't know about bollocks, but anyway, they should be coming on for the cobalt.
I think up around
Sorry,
Dundalk.
could you translate that, Tony?
I think up around Dundalk they're more into the seaweed or something like that. So, but no, I honestly think Hardline. He's just one that could slip through there now in that
Jamie,
race.
what do you think of the trip for him? The last day was a funny race. Now the Labago Rye race again. It looks as if he's possibly a 2.5 miler there that day, but I'm not actually sure because they went really slow when he actually closed up into the race from looking like he was going to be pulled out nearly.
Were they behind the bridle, all travelling well in that one?
They were all travelling because they were going no gallop.
No, it's not. But you see, this year has been very, very funny. We've had a mild winter, no rain. Leopardstown was good to firm ground. Any horse is going to be travelling well on good to firm ground. Do you know, those better soft ground horses don't seem to get away as much. Hardline wants a bit of dig in the ground. He's going to have it in Cheltenham. I just think that, he's in good old nick at home now as well. So I just think he's definitely one to side with.
Well, Jamie, I think Hardline is an absolutely fascinating piece of information to give. I can't imagine that anybody else will have selected him. Kevin Blake, what's your thoughts on the article?
I'd be very sweet and Hardline now.
You're only stealing cards. To be fair, this is one of Kevin's sweetest of the week.
No, I'd be very sweet and now. He really, really impressed me the day he ran at Navan there before Christmas, and he took on Us and Them, and Us and Them did absolutely everything right that day. He nailed every fence, he did everything right, and Hardline absolutely kicked him into touch and beat him by further than Larisburg ever did. He was absolutely brilliant that day. His jumping was neat, efficient, showed loads of pace. Like, to me, he's always looked a 2-miler. They decided to chance him up to 2.5 for Christmas. He beat Get a Bird. He got no credit for that because Get a Bird did what he did at the last. But Keith Donoghue was all hands and heels up to the last. I think he would have beat him anyway. And last time, I think last time is very simple because if you watched it from 3 out, you'd say, Jesus, this fella can't be a 2-miler. He's detached at the coming down to the second last. But if you watch it closely, and it's hard to see it because they're going away from you at the time, but it was the 9th last fence. He's landed on top of one. He's taken off way too soon. You're looking at him from behind him, so it's not that easy to see it. But he's landed on top of
It's hard to watch
a
it
fence.
closely then, Kev, if you can't see it.
Well, you have to look really closely, man.
Right, with a magnifying glass.
And he's lost his confidence, basically. He's completely and utterly slowed down into the next one, and he's gradually worn back into his jumping. And if you look at him from the second last to the last, he's made up, I think it was about 6 lengths, maybe even 8 lengths on the leader. He's run his race there. He's run his race, making up his ground, and he's flattened out in the run-in. I wouldn't judge him at all harshly on that, and he's not beaten that far. I thought all along he's a 2-miler, and you run him in the Arkle, they will go lickety-split up front. It'd be a shock if they didn't. There'd be no pressure on him. You can ride him nice and quiet. And the ground, like Jamie says, if it's good to soft, he's fine. If it's a little bit softer, he's definitely fine. And I think he's got a great chance in a windy Arkle. I think he's got a great chance, and I think that's really important. And Tony might have a point. Maybe Us and Them has come forward a bit for the tongue tie, but he absolutely hammered Us and Them, and everything was right with Us and Them that day. He did everything right. There was no excuses, and Hardline smashed them. And that was the last time we saw him over 2 miles. He's 12-1. Yep. In a windy Arkle, I think that's a mad price.
All right, 2 confident votes though from Jamie Codd and Kevin Blake for Hardline. 3 even if we throw in Mr. Keenan as well. Right, we'll go on to the RSA Chase. Niki Henderson had some big news. You were talking to him yesterday and today, Matt. So what is the latest on Santini as your drink arrives with a very nice straw as well, it should be added. Looking quite fancy there. What did Hendo have to say to you about Santini?
Love a good suck. Right. Who doesn't? Right. Where were we? RSA. Yes, Niki Henderson. Look, as we're going out live, I think I'd like to put it out there that I think social media has been really harsh on Niki Henderson, who not only, despite the fact that he has a contract with Bookmaker, has given out information before giving it out on that bookmaker, and yet people were giving him abuse for apparently saving information for that firm when clearly he wasn't. But also, just because of the way social media is, a trainer cannot win in these situations. Someone is always going to know first. It's unfortunate that it seems to be markets that do lead the way. But if you're a trainer, there are certain people who need to know things before punters at the end of the day. You're obliged to tell your owner, for instance. And if you don't like that and you haven't got the balls to cope with that, then just go and find another game. Because this is a game for people who actually can just man up a little bit. Punters these days, I'm sick and tired of punters. Basically, they want everything other than just being told what the winner is before every race. And the idea that you have to try and work things out for yourself and have a little bit of a brain, as Kevin Blake has it in this game, and actually is a thinker of the game, just seems to go out the wall. They want to know the weight, they want to know what it's eating in the morning, they want to know every operation it's ever had, what teeth, what toothpaste it takes. And you know what? Most of it doesn't help them an awful lot to find the winner. But it's just grow a pair and just try and find the winner of a horse race by using your intelligence rather than being told everything by the connections. Anyway, away from the rant, the latest from Santini is not 100%, but what Hendo said is that Altior was a lot worse than Santini is this time last year. Now, that does not mean that Santini won't get withdrawn tomorrow morning, because they're trying to put a shoe on him at the moment. And what Niki said is they've got a whole load of different shoes, and at the moment they're trying different ones, and as of yet they haven't found a shoe that they can actually put on him. But they've got other ones to try, and by the time of this thing they might have found one by now. But personally I don't care, because I don't really fancy Santini. So it doesn't really matter to me. The only thing it matters with is the price. And personally, if you fancy a horse in this race, I would definitely be betting it with this Santini situation, because none of us really want to bet Santini anymore. Even if he turns out to run on the day, there won't be many people betting it. It will drift. I've always been all over Delta Work. I love horses, and Kevin and Barry will know this. Well, probably the others, because they're not as thick as they look. The horses come back to Cheltenham are a big, big thing. Cheltenham is almost the only place that you get conditions where they're the same roughly conditions every year, i.e. not ground I'm talking about, but pace of races. Even when there are small fields, you take Footpads Arkle as a classic example. You only got a handful of runners, there's still two nutters in there. Most races are run at a proper gallop, and certain horses are suited to that. And back in the day, Martin Pipe used to have horses that could be absolutely crap during the year, come the Cheltenham Festival, strong pace. And I know people say, oh, well, the handicap marks come down, and that's the whole point. But it's not all about that. Conditions of races. And I think that Delta Work is absolutely suited to everything that happens at Cheltenham. Having said that, the RSA isn't certain to have a strong pace or something like that, but Delta Work doesn't need a strong gallop necessarily. I just think he's good with one. But he stays, he jumps soundly, he's got proven class, and he's got Russell on board, who is just a master of his trade for me, particularly when the cash is down.
Delta Work, so for Matt Chapman. I should say that I've just been told in my ear about some of the viewing figures. So, Matt, this is your first time broadcasting in Ireland since...
Well, don't tell me we're less
since
now
December.
The Boise's gone. Don't tell me we've gone down.
I can tell you that we've increased since Boise, and I can tell you that this is the most viewed Irish racing product this year.
Yeah. 3 viewers. Yay! 2 more than Netflix.
So, yeah. And you don't have to subscribe
the
either.
Thing is, we're actually talking about every race on the day. We haven't got something clashing with the market raisin sellers.
No, so we do have to go to Wolverhampton now for a race.
I thought we ditched the Gold Cup. I mean, it's only the Gold Cup. Clashes with a market raisin seller.
It's all a bit of crack, but yes, this is the most viewed Irish racing product this year. So thanks very much for that. Kevin Blake. Delta Work, follow that rant from Chapman.
Someone who also ditched Netflix, actually. he could have gone, but he stayed with an audience.
Stayed loyal.
Loyalty, lads, loyalty, very important.
Well, actually, what you said to me was the At The Races website pays really well. But anyway, let's not get away from the truth, eh, Kev?
That's a factual fact as well.
I'm facts, always facts.
In this day of
Factual
fake
facts.
news and alternative facts, you sometimes have to clarify that the facts are thrown out there are indeed factual. So that's the thinking behind that.
Stick to horse racing, Kev. Carry on.
Tongue twister.
Look, Delta Work is rock solid. He's the sort of price he should have been all along. Santini's back out to the price he should have been. Like ever since Kempton, he's been a wise guy horse that wasn't a wise guy's price. We can all see the case with Santini, but he was too short. He's the little setback. But I wouldn't make a big deal out of that. Jeez, I'm sure the lads will tell you if you had a horse pull a shoe there, after your last piece of serious work with 8 or 9 days to work with, geez, you'd be absolutely sickened if it stood against him in the end. But he's the right type of price now. But Delta Works very, very solid. I wouldn't put anyone off at all. But he's probably the right sort of price now. If you wanted one at a wild price against him, and
Please don't tell me it's windy.
I think it's a good race, to be fair. I think it looks an up to standard RSA. Non-runner, no bet now because there's no decision made as to where he runs. But I'd make Mortal long odds on to run here, I think, at this stage. The lads with the Gigginstown boys will make the decision ultimately. But if you look back at when Delta Work took on Mortal there at Christmas time, Mortal's running a stormer. He's pretty much upsides Delta Work, and he's made a shocking mistake at the last, and that's game over. He was running a big race. I'm not saying he would have beat him, but he would have been near enough on top of him, I think. Last time, it looks disappointing, but he was ridden a little bit differently. There didn't look to be much pace in the race, so they went a bit more forward with him. I don't think it suited him. I'd be happy enough to forgive him that. And look, if he comes back to his previous form, he's not that far behind Delta Work, and he's 25s, 33s. So, like I say, he's not a certainty to go here now. But personally, just my opinion, I'd be surprised if he didn't run in this.
33 to 1
yeah.
he is, by the way, for the RSHA. So you are spot on about that, Matt.
And I know in general, certainly in relationship terms, never go back is a very, very good thing to stick to. But just on Twitter, just while I've just noticed it, Joe has just tweeted in actually, just about the Gold Cup. He's just saying none of us mentioned Thistlecrack, just for the sake of Joe. Do we just ignore Thistlecrack as far as the Gold Cup is
save your bank balance, save your money, put it towards something else.
Second in the
No
King George,
chance.
Stayers Hurdle winner. Is it possible he could roll back the years?
It's definitely possible, but for me now, even in his prime, I just never thought he wanted a test like the Gold Cup.
Or a fence.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Jamie Cobb.
I always thought he'd be a lovely horse in the Ryanair, but they never went down that road. But you couldn't dismiss him. But yeah, personally, I'd be surprised. I don't know
Yes,
what the
you
lads
could.
think.
And we'll move on. Jamie, just with regard to what Santini's gone through, would you be in any way concerned about that coming towards Cheltenham?
No, well, look, it's not ideal. You're 10 days out from his race, but look at if they can dig it out there and get a shoe back on him and he gets back going. There's so many different ways. A horse's work is usually done. This week is really just maybe a few little blowouts and you're ready to go. They're going to be on the boat on Saturday or Sunday morning. So
From Niki's.
Oh well, I suppose Niki, yeah. But he's not going to be doing much more really now, is he? No. It's all done.
I think that was his last piece that he pulled the shoe in. I think wasn't it?
He galloped
He did a racecourse gallop.
Yeah, it was.
No, I'd imagine he should be fine. Sure, Dermot Weld won an Epsom Derby and he pulled the shoe off that morning. I think, wasn't it?
Cooldown was lame the morning of the RSA and he still went on.
That's right, yeah. So
Kev's gone for a big price Gigginstown horse. Matt's gone for the favourite. I'd be with him as well on Delta Work. What's your thoughts on the RSA?
To be honest, I don't think he's going for it. But OK Corral, I thought was the.
Jamie, I always find, I don't know about the rest of the panel, but I always find it's not worth talking about a horse who's not going for the race.
I know, yeah.
But
it's just a small point, Coddy.
Is it possible, though? Have you spoken to Derek O'Connor? Is there a possibility that they'll change and go for the RSA?
I don't know, but I'm just wondering, is there?
Shall we ask JP's boy?
Barry.
Jamie just whispered JP's bitch.
Easy now, I did.
No, he did not. Oh. No, he did not. Before you all start going on Twitter, no, he didn't.
Maybe Mark Walsh just won't give like you, Barry.
I don't know, Matt. I don't know.
What do you actually have to do to get that job?
The views of Matt Chapman are not necessarily those of At the Races. Barry, is there a chance that OK Corral could divert
Jamie's the one who's put this out there, and he's in the community.
What?
What community are you on about?
Well, according to Jamie, the bitch community.
I put it out there for you to...
I can announce
Barry,
exclusively
you're going
that
to take that from Codface.
Sean Boyce will be back next year, by the way, apparently.
You've leveled the score anyway with the codface one. Okay, Carl. No, he goes for the 4 mile as far as I know, so I can't imagine there'll be any reversal on that, as much as I might like. Do you know, it's funny.
Didn't say, Jamie Cott did not say that.
He did.
I might have whispered it.
Rewind.
As regards the race itself, dealt worthy favourite. But I think the Kempton race is worth looking at though. Le Bagaroy beat Top of the Game and Santini. If Top of the Game, if they took the time a little bit, he'd have beaten Le Bagaroy. That's very strong form. And it's arguably stronger form than anything Delta Work has maybe in the book, with the exception of beating Le Richebourg. But his wins since have been good. I really like Top of the Game, and I think Santini, if he gets there, he ran well enough, a bit like Native River, he ran well enough in Kempton in a track he wouldn't like to suggest that I think he'd run a big race in Cheltenham.
Okay, so the two British horses for you. Jamie, for your selection in the RSA.
I know Delta Works form has been rock solid.
That Trimmore form would have been
the Trimmore with Le Richebourg coming through over 2.5. It's rock solid, and to be honest, Santini has been beaten. Top of the Game has been well beaten. Maybe I was with Joseph O'Brien the other night, and he said that Martel definitely goes for this, and I kind of agree with Kevin there. If he ran in it at a big price, he'd probably be ridden to run well as well, so that would suit. So he could be one that could definitely pop up at a big price there to be in the first three.
Okay, that's 2 votes for Mortal. Tony Keenan, we'll wrap it up with you.
I like the favourite, and I'll not say any more because Cheltenham will have started if we don't get this thing hurried up.
JLT, Lost in Translation is currently favoured alongside Deputy Soy. Barry, we'll start with you. You were saying that you wouldn't mind either race to go for, but if he does go for the JLT, he's surely well made for it.
Yeah, himself and Lost in Translation obviously clashed the last 2 runs. Lost in Translation won in Cheltenham, getting £3, and Deputy Soy reversed it in Sandown off level weights. He's a very good horse. He won the Triumph. He was very good. He missed last season through just not being in good form. Phillips' horses weren't flying. It took him a run or two to get the hang of fence, but he's taken well. I thought he was rock solid in Sandown. I think the two at the head of the market are the two. Real Steel, it's hard to see him being good enough. Glen Forza goes for the Arkle, we're told. Kildesart coming from handicaps. Lost in Translation would be the one I'd fear most, but I would, not by a furlong, but I would fancy my chance against him.
Okay, Deputy Soy for...
Can I just ask Barry, with him, is he a horse that, over this distance, finds anything? Or, I described it last time, you have to ride him as if you're Jamie Spencer, but that's kind of what you do on him, isn't it? You delivered him perfectly, but how easy in a Cheltenham, it's like riding Le Président, sort of say... Does everything have to go right to deliver a horse like that in a Cheltenham Festival race?
Do you know, if you're on the best horse, it's not so difficult. If you're on the right horse. I'm very sweet on him. I think he's a great shout. Without dismissing the opposition, but I Lost in Translation is the one to beat, and I think we might just edge it. We should edge it.
You've got a lot more class than him.
Okay, Matt, your view on the JLT? Definitely just the one to beat?
It's a race that doesn't interest me at the moment in any way as a betting medium. Defi de Sol probably has the most class, but I loved him as a hurdler. You remember on ITV, I went crazy when he won the Triumph because it was just one of those great moments. Everyone had lumped on.
You going crazy on TV?
Well, it was just a great moment for the punters. Everyone had lumped on Defi de Sol, and we all thought it was a good thing, and it won like a good thing. And then I actually thought he'd probably never win another race. And fair credit play to the master, Philip Hobbs, for getting him back. And it's been great to see Hobbsy back doing so well, better anyway, this season. Look, for me, he's absolutely the classiest horse in the race. I think for me, it's hard. You don't see many jockeys having to ride a Cheltenham race like Barry's going to have to ride this one. He obviously says it's easy because he's one of the best in the business. As an outsider looking in, it makes it tricky for me. you just make one mistake at the wrong time in the closing stages, and it's.
But that's the same for the lad in front as well. If he makes a mistake at the wrong time, it's all relative.
Okay, Jamie, from your agent, and I give you the pick of the rides, who would it be in the JLT?
Lost in translation. I thought his run with Defi de Sol in Cheltenham, he made the run and Defi de Sol came by him and he came back at him up the hill. I think it'll suit him. I thought in Sandown, I thought Barry was absolutely majestic on Defi de Sol, and I don't think Lost in Translation went as well right-handed. I just thought he resented being in front, and it's a funny old place, Sandown too. The fences come up quick down the back, and I just thought it all happened a little bit quick for Lost in Translation that day. And I just thought Barry was very, very good on Defi de Sol, but I think around Cheltenham,
don't you think Lost in Translation, he's a solid horse, but he kind of lacks a bit of Cheltenham Festival winning charisma. He's just a horse rather than a special.
Not really. Defi de Sol is definitely the classiest horse. Like, he won a Triumph. He's a good horse. But I just think Lost in Translation is a proper national hunt horse. He's a proper chaser, and I think he'll tough it out up the hill.
I don't know whether Camellia de Cotte runs in this, but I know that connections think that Camellia de Cotte has got an each-way chance wherever it goes.
Yeah, she is an entry in Naas on Sunday in a sort of a softer race, but I think she would have a little bit of a squeak as well, yeah.
Jamie, if you were riding Lost in Translation, hypothetically, we've seen him take on Defi de Sol twice. What do you do to beat Barry? How do you ride that race?
I'd probably take a pull tree out, let Barry go by me, and then go by him at the last.
bit of cat and mouse.
Yeah. It just looks like Defi de Sol probably needs to get a lead as long as he can. Look at Barry has ridden him a lot of the time, so he knows him very, very well. It'll be interesting to see. I think Lost in Translation will just jump out there and make the run, and something might come with him, make it a good test. And if Defi de Sol comes by him, well and good, and if he doesn't, he won't,
Kev, you're quite keen to talk about the 4-miler, but before that, Tony, you've got a pretty strong view here in the JLT.
I don't really have a massive strong view, because I have a sense that Camellia de Cotte is going to go on Sunday. I would give her a little bit of squeak, but there is a chance that the front two here, Lost in Translation and Defi, are just a mile clear. They did something that was, to me, obscene on the sectional times on New Year's Day. Barry Day did the last 3 or 4 furlongs 5 seconds quicker than your man ASO, more or less. It was a solid high 150s, 160 horse. Like, they could be just chunks clear. But the times would sort of say that Lost in Translation nearly hasn't gone hard enough.
It wasn't an end-to-end gallop. We were probably at our hardest from the fourth last. But that was just how the race was. It wasn't as strong a field, and Lost in Translation had to make his own run. And there'll probably be a little bit more competitive up front here, so you might find a more even pace.
Yeah. It's slightly shorter too, isn't it, than the Dipper? This is sort of 2-3 and a bit type of thing, probably better ground. Now, it's a fascinating duel. I would sort of be interested in maybe doing a reverse forecast in the two of those if there's no Camellia de Cotte, because I think there could be just a long, long way clear of the rest. Real Steel to me wouldn't jump well enough. He wouldn't be.
He's
in the
probably
same
better
bar.
going right-handed as well.
Yeah, that could be true as well.
Okay, so if Willie's horse goes on Sunday, reverse forecast,
The
Defi
other
de Sol,
front
Lost
two,
in
yeah.
Translation. All right. Kevin, before we get Jimmy Codd's thoughts on the 4-miler, you've got one of your strongest selections of the week for the National Hunt Chase.
I wouldn't go quite that strong, but I do like Disco-Rama, trained by Paul Nolan. He ran an exceptional race behind Blow by Blow in the Martin Pipe last year. That was a very odd race. They went very steady in front. He came from a mile back. He was a huge eye catcher. I think he's better than he was ever able to give the chance to show over hurdles. Loved his chase and debut. Ground was a little bit too quick for him the time after that. And last time I thought he was working his way into the race lovely and was going to... He might have beaten Ballyward. It was going to be a close run thing. And I just think the test of stamina will play to his strength. I know Paul Nolan was kind of half hoping he might get a handier mark and maybe running one of the handicaps, but I think the 4-miler is a good spot for him. I think he's overpriced. I think I'm fairly sure Barry O'Neill's booked to ride him. Don't quote me on it, but I did hear that from a fella that should know the other day, so that'd be more than good enough for me. And Disco-Rama.
Okay, Disco-Rama for Kevin. Jamie, do you have a ride in the race?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure which yet.
But who do you want it to be?
Thanks very much, Tony.
Who are you
Look at
who are you split between?
No, it's for Gordon. He has Gun Digger and Champagne Classic.
Okay.
They're the two horses.
The worst horse Michael O'Leary owns, apparently. Champagne
Yeah, the
Classic,
worst horse.
who then goes on and wins a Grade 1.
Yeah, exactly. Either or, Champagne Classic could be a great ride. He has form around Cheltenham. his 2 runs over fences they've been quite good. He chased home Ballyward, I think in Naas was it, and then in Navan the last day behind Chris's Dream on ground, which would be plenty good enough for him. I suppose if you were wanting to ride one of them, I'd probably like to be riding Champagne Classic, but that's not my choice.
And what about Ballyward? Patrick pulled a fast one, made sure he wasn't entered for the RSA, got him entered for the Four Miler.
I think he's a great chance. I think he'd stay well. Seems to jump very well. He was second in a point to point, so he's I've no fear on the jumping front. Look, he was good in Naas the last day. I'm with Kevin there. I thought Discorama just wasn't done with. He was, a little bit left in the locker, I thought, and he stays strong. He has the form around Cheltenham as well. I do think it's a race that's going to go to Ireland. I'm not sure about OK Corral. I think he's the classiest horse in the race, possibly, but I don't think he's the strongest stayer.
It's very fragile too.
Yeah, I thought he came to win his race last year in the Albert Bartlett, and I just thought he folded and leaned in behind and just didn't want to win. I would have said no, he was more an RSA horse rather than going for the 4 mile. But
I think Barry would agree with you.
Yeah, like he's loads of pace. He could be even a horse to drop back again. So look at it. He will have an absolute wizard on his back in Derek O'Connor. He's going to nurse him around. But he's a strong travelling horse. He'll be hard to manage even for Derek.
Okay.
So yep.
We will kick on to the Novice Hurdlers, the race that gets the biggest cheer of all. When the tapes go up for the Supreme Novices Hurdle, Al Dancer, Fakir Duderie, currently in and around the same price. Matt Chapman, who do you expect to come home first in the opening race for Cheltenham 2019?
Yeah, not a usual Supreme in that it looks as though just about anything could happen here. We'll learn from the Meet the Fucker horse in a minute from Kevin, of course, because he of course, will know exactly what that's been given. What that's ready for.
Oh, my
God almighty.
I want to take on Al Dancer, who, for me, has not really proved that he's got a rating to win a Supreme. He was good in the handicap at Ascot the other day, but I think that form it shouldn't be good enough to win a Supreme. Angel's Breath is probably a lot better than we saw when defeated. If the ground came up soft, I certainly wouldn't put you off the nuts, Elixir de Nuts, because although he's not an exciting horse particularly, he keeps winning and he's tough. But the one I like each way is one of Willie Mullins's 2, and it's not Classical Dream, it's Aramon. I think this is a Supreme that is absolutely wide open. This horse, I think, would have beaten Classical Dream if it had the rail. I think it was a classic example of the horse with the rail, won the other day, and has loads and loads of experience, jumps well, and I think a Cheltenham Festival race will really suit Aramon in that I think he's a horse to deliver as late as possible off a strong gallop. He's kind of the Defi de Soy of the Supreme. And in a wide open year, I'm happy to back Aramon each way.
Okay, for the Supreme Racing Club. Kevin, I think that Willie was a bit disappointed he got beaten, even though Ruby had chosen Classical Dream that day. They kind of felt as though he should have gone and got the job done. But they could be divided now. Classical Dream could go down the Ballymore route. They might stick with Easy Game in that race. Maybe these two will still go for that race. Yes, we do love Easy Game. But you, of course, will be with Joseph O'Brien making the decision about Meet the Fakers. Fakir Duderie. Is he going to go here, yes or no?
I think JP said in the Racing Post today that he's pretty much decided to run the Supreme, so that's the man you need to... His word is what matters, so it looks like he's going to go there, yeah.
So 4-year-olds, back in the 90s, Orlawa did it. They don't have the best recent record. Binocular almost did it. Do you like the fact he'll get this weight?
Yeah, just in terms of the record, like if you look at the sample of 4-year-olds that have run in the race, most of them have been absolute no-hopers. Orlawa won it, and Binocular should have won it really, was just touched off in it. Those were the only two, I think, in the last 10 or 15 years that were under 10 to 1. You know, 8 pounds is a lot of weight for a very forward 4-year-old. You know, if you looked at him and Fine Brunello there in the parade ring upsides each other at Cheltenham last time, you know, completely different types. Fine Brunello's a fine big chaser in the making, whereas your man is much more forward. So I think it's the right race to run him in. We'll find out. I would be lying to you if I said it was expected that he'd win like that last time. I think he surprised people. You know, there was great hope that he'd win, but geez, to win like that was a surprise. And look, hopefully he can continue to go on and repeat that again. I think he'd have a great chance to pull out the O-line again. It looks a windy Supreme.
Is he your selection?
He's probably not. He's probably not at the price.
Who are you going to go for?
I'll probably narrowly go with Angel's Breath. He's tightening up the whole time, but the more I look at it, I like that run the last day. I expect him to come on quite a bit from it. The way Nico rode him, I don't know, but I'd say if someone asked him the question, I'd say the horse took a right heave there coming down to the last, because he's been very considerate with him on the run in, even though he seems to be closing the gap on the errant leader. But look, I think he's well equipped for the race. He should come on. Niki Henderson, when they really, really like one, they don't tend to be too far wrong in these big setups. So again, wouldn't shock me if Fakir went and won, but with the selection would be Angel's Breath.
Barry, you must have been thrilled when the news came through that JP had bought Fakir Dudery and a number of others. This will be a ride in the Supreme by the looks of things.
Yeah, I'm not certain that now. It's not finalised who rides.
Well, if he's saying it in the RP, then surely...
Oh, no. Who rides him, I said.
Oh,
Hold
wait, hold on.
Aren't you
Hold
JP's whatever Jamie said?
Surely you'll be on board.
No, I wouldn't say for certain. There's every chance Mark will be on him. I'm not sure. As regards the race itself, I think Al Dancer is rock solid. He's the one to beat. Angel's Breath, I'd agree with Kevin on his run in Kempton. There's improvement there, and he's probably not a bad price. Nicky's other runner, Mr. Fisher, he's a nice type and works really well. He could be worth a little bit of each way. I think Fakir Dudery has a big chance.
Do you know you're going to be on Mr. Fisher?
No. I wouldn't mind being on.
Tell the truth, Bazza.
No, I wouldn't
Tell the truth. Come on, be honest, man. Do you know you're on Mr. Fisher?
No.
Do you think you might be on Mr. Fisher?
Do you want to have a staring competition?
Yeah. Tell you what, while the two lads have a staring competition,
still got the twinkle, I tell you.
Jamie's going to move forward, and Jamie's going to give us his selection for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Who, if you had the choice, would you be on? Classical Dream, for example, now is a horse I quite like. Do you think that he could go here for Willie, and if so, increase his record in the race?
Supreme Novices Hurdle, Jamie.
Yeah, I don't know. This no.
Scroll down there at 50 to 1.
Get in the cab.
We've got 50 to 1 shots, 66 to 1 shots. What can you go for at a real big price to repeat history from 2 years ago?
I'd love to see Angel's Breath win it. I would. I think he's an improving horse. I thought the last day in Kempton, he was staying going at the line, which augurs well for him coming to Cheltenham. He's probably the one for me. Look at it. I think it's a very, very weak Supreme. It really is. There's no horse there that you're saying is going to go on and be a potential superstar. So maybe Angel's Breath. I rode Vision the Honour today and around Navan. If rain came, he's very, very good, but he needs rain. And he might run into a place at a good price, but Angel's Breath is probably the one that
Definitely
could
raining, Jamie. I can see. Look,
Well, it's raining here anyway.
it's
I'd
absolutely
say,
lashing it.
should ring Cheltenham there and see her raining there.
like Davey did a few years ago. Tony, I know you're not the biggest fan of the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Do you want to just move straight on?
No opinion. No.
Straight on to the Ballymore. Tony Keenan, your thoughts on who wins the Ballymore Novices Hurdle?
Okay. Yeah. Do like this race now. Champ. With Champ, I just wonder he hasn't really learned enough racing wise. He's still very keen. He's still hanging a little bit in the finish. For a 7-year-old, I'd just like to see him a bit more mature than what he is. Barry will be fit to tell you more about him. I sort of like the Nace form here. Battle over Diane, but nearly more so at the price as Mouse Morris's horse Sam's Profile. Now, you can pick at the Nace form and you can say, Jesus, Get a Reason and Magnum are pretty close to them. But what I'd say about that is, Sam's Profile has been trained by Mouse Morris. I fucking love Mouse Morris with a good horse. I just think with a very good horse, he is very, very good. And he'll be training him with Cheltenham in mind. There's loads of progress. He was way better than the bare form in this. Didn't jump well. Ploughed the fourth last. Just the pace was picking up. Brian Cooper got into trouble off the turn in. and he's finished off the race very well. So I think there's loads of scope with him. He's also he was the youngest horse in the race, and he's only 5. So he has bagged the scope. He's 16 to 1. I think he's a big price, and I'd have Battle Over Diane a bit shorter as well. He's done some savage times as well. He only started his career in November. Right, the horse had 3 runs, and he's won a Grade 1 novice hurdle within 3 runs. I would have him a little bit shorter, and I'd be quite happy taking those 2 against the field. I would be worried about Classical Dream. Although I used to love an old Willie Mullins switcheroo now, to be honest, because I think he only did it when it actually really mattered. Like, I think he was putting a hell of a lot of thought into it. I'm not sure this year that it matters quite as much, because they haven't got 12 good novice hurdlers to place. They've him and the Varamon, and what have they got for the Albert Bartlett? Not very much. Yeah, so it's handful. It's well cut back. So for me, anyway, I would bet the ace for him.
Okay, Captain Blake, Ballymore.
Look, I wouldn't put anyone off Champ. I think all the raw ability is there. I take Tony's point. He needs to put things together a little bit better. But it was a Mickey Mouse race, the shallow. There went no gallop. It wasn't any help to him. They'll surely go a good, decent gallop here. And it'll make the job a lot easier for him. So I wouldn't put anyone off him. But look, he's well found in the market. If you wanted one at a wild price, Jarvis Plate, who I know I'd laugh away now, but he was... There we go. I was actually very impressed with him on his penultimate start. He was really good at Cheltenham, looked to really relish the step up and trip. He ran motherless last time, really disappointing in a style that was in complete contrast to what he did the time before, which would suggest to me that there was something wrong. He hasn't turned up since. Look, Fergal O'Brien, I'm sure, will be... It would have all been about the Ballymore, I'd say. From that disappointment onwards, he would have been working backwards from there. And just at a big price in a race that, the front 2 stand out a small bit, but if you wanted to go elsewhere in search of a jackpot, he'd be the one.
Do you listen back to old Final Furlong Podcast where Declan Rick said this was the best novice hurdler in training, and then he got stuffed that week?
Yeah, I was sweethearting that day as well now, behind Birchdale and...
brewing up a storm and we came down at the last.
He ran no race. He was off the bridle an awful long way out. It just wasn't him, And when a horse runs in such a contrasting style to what you expect from them, it's usually indicative there was something wrong. He hasn't run since. It just is adding up to me that he wasn't right. And I'll put my faith in Fergal O'Brien. When he's the sort of price he is, you can take a chance, and he might be a decent one to take a chance on.
Okay, Barry, he's won his last 4. Champ, he'll be one of the most solid favourites of the week. Will Tony McCoy be meeting you in the winner's enclosure after the Ballymore?
I hope so. I think it's a great chance. Handicap form is always a good thing. He ran clean away with Aiden on his previous run and still managed to win a good competitive handicap in Newbury at the Hennessy meeting. I won a Grade 1 on him then the last day in the Challow Hurdle. Good, solid performance. He has age on his side. He has it for a reason because he had a couple of hold-ups during his career. But to me, he's rock solid. Having said that, I would have nothing but respect for Battle Over Diane. He's a gorgeous horse. He's 3 from 3. He's a Grade 1 winner. Mouse's horse really caught the eye in Nace. And whether that adds to Battle Over Diane or maybe detracts from it is up to opinion. But I think they would represent a big challenge. But I wouldn't be swapping Champ. And as I say, handicap form, it stands for a lot, that level of experience. I don't buy into the hanging and inexperience. For me, he'd be the most streetwise in the race.
And Barry, I just had a tweet there from Dan Heap down below. He was looking for an opinion on Champagne Platinum if he turned up here.
Yeah, I think he's going to struggle to make it to the meeting. He's a lovely horse, but I think he's going to struggle to make it. So maybe they'll be there for him.
Something gone wrong with him? Or?
Yeah, nothing major. He could be there. I'd say could make entry, but I think he might struggle to make this maybe.
Having mentioned Jarvis Plate, Birchdale, what would be the idea with him?
Well, Birchdale is in the Albert Bartlett as well, so that could be his target.
Is he experienced enough, do you think, to go for the 3-miler?
Sure, he's a novice like them all. So he's a course winner. He had a battle in his hand with Brewing Up a Storm when he checked out at the last.
You felt you were going to win that day, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I hadn't gone for all. I was riding him. He wouldn't have been fully cooked for the day. So you're riding him a little bit conservatively. I was coming to win me a race, but trying to save a little bit. But no, he's a good type. But we'll get on to the race, won't we?
Okay, Jamie, these are the stars of tomorrow. Who do you really like?
Yeah, this is the best novice race of the festival. Battle Over Diane is just, he's gorgeous. He's 17 hands. He's a beautiful big horse, and you'd think for the size of him he wouldn't be as balanced as he is, but he's very, very balanced. He's very nice, and he's proven that in his 3 runs, as Tony said, he's had 3 runs. Very quick. He won his bumper, won his maiden hurdle in Navan, and then went to Naas in January and won his Grade 1 hurdle. And he is big and he's raw. So what he's done has been very good. I suppose Mouse's horse, Sam's Profile, is. I agree with Tony. Like Mouse coming into a festival with a good horse, and this is a good horse. I'd be very, very, very sweet on him. He's a good horse. He absolutely kicked the last hurdle over the Naas, I think it was, and as Tony said, he got a bit of hardship on the bend when he couldn't keep his posse after it, and he stayed on very, very well in Naas. So look at, I suppose, if Battle Over Dying and Sam Profile, it'll be interesting to see how they'll get on. The one where I'm most interested is a horse of Martin Brazel's, a horse called City Island.
And it turns out there's a good few who agree with you here.
Yeah, he's a good horse, this lad. Do a good bit of work with Martin, and he doesn't run them unless he has them. And this is a good horse. And
does he have many to run?
Better this lad, I'd say this could be his only runner. But Martin doesn't make a point of going places where he doesn't need to go. So City Island could be. He just could be a sneaky one there in this race. He didn't beat a whole pile in Naas. He didn't beat a whole pile, but that's not to say that he won't step up and really perform here.
Yeah, he was long odds on that day, but he's a horse who's getting a lot of talk now.
Definitely.
To wrap up the Ballymore, Matt Chapman.
Yeah, I mean, from what we've seen at Champ, he is absolutely gagging for a strongly run Cheltenham race. He just looks like a traveller. That shallow form, Kevin said. Something to add, Kevin? It's not another windy race, is it? The Challow form, Kevin says, is down. I mean, it's basically terrible at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Getaway Drump was beaten at Kelso, and Cateson, who was third, was 7th of 9 at Haydock. So as a form specimen, it's pretty crap. And Brewing Up a Storm, I think, would have won another half a furlong as well. He absolutely charged up the running, and he brings that Birchdale form in as well. I agree with Jamie. I think as an each-way bet, Brewing Up a Storm, I actually disagree with Barry about. I tipped up Birchdale that day, and I thought I was very lucky to win. I felt Richard Johnson had plenty up his sleeve, and again did his kamikaze thing. And on this occasion, he really did turn into a Japanese pilot. But it was. I really think that Brewing Up a Storm is a tough horse, and if Champ doesn't find much off the bridle, which he might not, Brewing Up a Storm will enjoy the Cheltenham Hills. So a little bit each way on Brewing Up a Storm for Ollie Murphy, who has to show that he's not just the boot lad for Gordon, doesn't he?
Right, Friday, the potato race. Before we get to the Triumph Hurdle, Commander of Fleet is in here. So, Jamie, we'll start off with you first of all. Gordon Elliott. He's a tough old horse.
Look at he toughed it out in.
Settle down, lads. It's the Codfather talking.
He toughed it out in Leopardstown. This is a very good horse. I hate this race. I just think it just turns into such a slog.
It can finish your horse, can't it?
Absolutely. I can see maybe something with a good few runs. Commander Fleet is very good and he's very classy. I don't know whether he just has the toughness to go to Cheltenham and win over the Albert Bartlett distance. Barry Dicky Diver.
He was second in Chepstow to Lisnagar Oscar. Was a good run, and that was his first run over hurdles.
Yeah.
So,
and you'd imagine him stepping up and trip is going to suit him.
There should be improvement in him. So yeah, it's a very open race.
Yeah, I just thought maybe Rebecca Curtis. It's good to see her back with a goodish kind of horse. And Lisnagar Oscar, he's a point-to-point winner. He's an Oscar. He's tough, and look at he might be good enough to come home here.
Okay, Rebecca Curtis for you. Kevin, is Rhinestone going to take up his engagement in the potato race?
No decision made yet now, but I'd say he's long odds on to run here, and he'd have his chance. To be fair, like. The way I look at this race, if it's good to soft, I'd give Rhinestone a great chance. He's shortened it away the whole time because he should. There was very little between him and Commander of Fleet last time. And look, I'd agree. We often talk about it on the podcast. If you look back on previous Albert Bartletts, it's often the really experienced novice, sometimes the second season novice, that goes and win this race because it's such a horrible slog of a race. And people might look at Rhinestone and say, well, he's only had a handful of runs over hurdles. But what you'd say about him is that, he spent a good bit of time in Ballydoyle. He's got plenty of miles on the clock from when he was a young horse. He's not your typical horse going to the Albert Bartlett with 3 runs over hurdles. He's much more hardened than that. And I'd say the step up in trip, Joseph always considered him a real stayer in the making, so he ran quite well in the bumper last year. So if anyone fancied him, I wouldn't put them off at all. But in the alternative case, if there was a bit more cut in the ground, I'd give Darren Ross a great chance for Philip Dempsey. He'd be very much under the radar now. He won a couple of weak graded races, you'd have to say, but he's a big, strong galloping horse he ended up making the run in the last twice now, and I don't think he wanted to make the run, and nothing else wanted to go on. He had his ears pricked the whole way. He was gawking around him. I'd say he'd be a much better horse in a race like this, where there's something to give him a lead. But I suspect they've been talking about this race since his last one, but I'd say he'd want a good ease in the ground to run. But if he does, I wouldn't underestimate him.
He's actually not ground dependent. He's not. Everyone thinks that now, but he's not. He's not a heavy ground horse. I won a point on him on a bit of ease, but it wasn't very heavy. He's just a horse that had problems, and he's very, very sound this year. And I'd say that's what you're seeing now.
Okay.
But he's a very, very talented horse. I have to agree with you there, and he has that age on his side as well. He's a second season novice as such. So. He's definitely one for
He'd be on your list.
Yeah,
as well,
definitely.
Okay, so Darren Ross, Rhinestone, not without a choice. I really like him. Easy game could go here too for William Mullins. Tony?
Yeah, well, this is usually a race now, as the lads are saying, for the hardened horse, maybe the second season novice Dinnans and Darren Ross would be the two that sort of fit that category. I'm not sure that's actually going to happen this year. The ground has been better all along. I also think some of the more potential horses, the Commander of Fleets and Rainstones of the world, aren't actually short enough. I'd be a big fan of Rainstone here. I think that Leopardstown form is excellent. It was a very good time, but more than backing that up is there's only one horse who's come out and run out of it, Joseph's horse Chungia, and he was beaten. He was beaten the guts of 20 lengths, and he was about to win a Pertemps qualifier, I'd say fairly well in Punchestown of 131 there about a fortnight ago. So if the 6th horse is coming out and about to win a good handicap, to me, that would be an early sign the form is fairly strong. I don't think there should be discrepancy in price between Rainstone and Commander of Fleet. I would respect Commander of Fleet. I like the fact that Rainstone has a bit more experience. He's been to Cheltenham at least, and I think he's a bit overpriced. And just, this will come up in the handicaps, but I really think that in the handicap hurdles, and the good stay in handicap hurdles in Ireland this year, the novice hurdlers are sweeping all before them. Like Chungia was going to win that. Cuneo won one for Henry at Christmas. Mormon running well. Cap York actually finished up winning that Chungia race. Dallas the Picton. I'd love to be back in an Irish novice hurdler in a good festival handicap, a Martin Pipe now, or a Pertemps or a Coral Cup maybe next week. I think they seem to be the group of horses that look to be well handicapped.
Okay, well, we'll get the handicap picks from everybody towards the end. Barry, would you lean towards Birchdale here, or Rhinestone if you can? Siri wants to know who you're backing as well here, by the way.
So I'm backing.
Who you're backing. Who you want to ride in the race?
I don't know is the answer. I think it's said earlier when Jamie was speaking, I think it's very competitive. I think it's a good, tight race. Darren Ross, age on his side, that counts for a lot. I was second in OK Corral on it last year, and he was an 8-year-old as well. I think it does count for a lot and experience as well, but it is a good race, a strong race, and it's competitive. Whichever I ride, I think they should be thereabouts, or maybe all three could run and could be thereabouts. If Relegate was to get her jumping together, she would be the best stayer of them all.
I'm reliably informed Relegate won't be running at Cheltenham this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Relegate, I believe, won't run at Cheltenham. So
Come on, Barry. That's breaking news there from Barry. Breaking news. So whoever you ride.
We did a preview the other night, and the owner of Relegate was there, and the strong hint, although we're kind of waiting for Willie to say it, is that she's not quite 100% at the moment.
Okay, so whoever you ride, Barry.
No, I just think it's a very open race. Birchdale, and you see then Dickie Diver's form tying in with the favourite. And
Dickie Diver, not Dickie Davis. It's not Dickie World Diver. Of Sport. What you said, Dickie Davis?
No, Matt. Matt, don't do thinking, okay? Don't do thinking. It's above your grade.
Hey, shut it, bitch boy.
Matt Chapman.
It's a competitive race. It's a tricky one, hard one to call. But I'd say Darren Ross could be value each way.
Okay, Matt.
Okay. No. It's not a race I've spent too long looking at. Because
Okay, Jamie Codd, who wins the potato race?
I've always wondered. I've not seen that position before. But anyway, Commander of Fleet. For some strange reason, they ran it over 2 miles. It was never going to be a 2-mile horse, and it didn't run very well. Stare in the making. I don't think he's a great horse, but he would be my each way bet, Commander of Fleet.
Jamie?
Yeah, no, Darren Ross each way. I'm with Kevin on that one.
Okay, finally, the Triumph Hurdle. Surely, it's the absolute good thing of the week. Barry Geraghty swinging away on the bridle. He could win the Ascot Gold Cup later in the season.
You love a bit of swinging.
Sir Eric, Kevin Blake, how far does he win the Triumph Hurdle by?
Sure, look, you'd be very hopefully go and win, wouldn't you? There's hard to throw a stone at him.
Whoa. This is Joseph O'Brien's race planner, lads. Let's find out.
Come on, let
He's
the man.
still a full horse.
He thought it was a funeral. Let him speak. Come on.
Still a full horse. Is he going to win?
Yeah. You'd hope he'd go and win.
Wait.
You'd come
That was
away
a terrible reaction from the crowd. You all just got told that Sir Eric is an absolute good thing from the race
He
planner
actually
from
said he
Joseph
hoped.
O'Brien's horse.
But I think
Is he going to win?
I think what we said in the podcast the other night was he could take a break there after the first circuit, go cover Lorena and Applesjade, and still come back and win the Triumph Hurdle.
God, Sir Eric! Get up, you good thing.
But you'd be sick if he's beat. You'd be sick if he's beat. When you see everyone involved talking about him now, I think, and they'd have a similar opinion. I know nobody likes putting more pressure on. There's enough pressure when you have what's probably going to be an odds-on fav at Cheltenham now, but everyone involved will be sick if he doesn't win. I think it's fair to say.
Barry, are you okay with him covering a couple of mares, Lorena and Applesjade, beforehand in the Moed tent and then heading out to go and win the race?
I'd say that shouldn't be a problem to him. He's looked brilliant. He was brilliant the last day. Tiger Tap probably underperformed the last day and would maybe represent each way value, having run so close to Sir Eric at Christmas in a race that generally works out as a good indicator.
Jamie Codd, you love the Triumph Hurdle. You were telling me last night this is one of the races you're keen to talk about. This and the Fred Winter, you love it.
They're just not my cup of tea. I won't lie to you. Flat horses going jumping. They're not for me, to be honest. I don't like.
In the words of Davy Russell, dirty flat rats. That being said, though, Matt Chapman, who do you think is going to win the Triumph Hurdle?
Well, the thing about Sir Eric is we already know from the flat that he is the best horse in the race because, if you actually look back at the Ascot Gold Cup, Vizirabad was injured in the Ascot Gold Cup and basically hasn't been seen since. Order of St George is retired, Big Orange is retired, and Stradivarius obviously won. So you could argue that Sir Eric could just be one of the biggest dangers that Stradivarius would have for an Ascot Gold Cup bid this year. Now, it might be that they still go back on the flat after this hurdling campaign with this horse, but you already know he's the best flat horse in the race, so he's got the most quality of any of these, and he jumps well. When you put the two together, Geraghty cannot lose this race. All he has to do is get this round. Get it round, and then you won't have to worry about Mark Walsh nicking the odd ride, Barry, anymore. Honestly. Seriously. This could be your whole future is probably nestled in this one horse.
And that, ladies and gentlemen,
School fees, everything
that
is in
is
this
Matt
horse.
Chapman, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Keenan, our final proper race to talk about Triumph Hurdle.
No real opinion, just Barry. Gardens of Babylon, I thought he didn't get the greatest trip in Leopardstown between a couple of mistakes down the back and he had to sort of come round horses. Any hope he'd get a little bit closer to Eric, or is that pipe dreaming?
He could, but Sir Eric went to the lane so well. It'd be hard to say he's a lot to improve on.
And to be fair, people will make the comment that, the spring juvenile was slowly run and it's thus a questionable piece of form, but everything about Sir Eric, you'd think a stronger run race would show him to better effect.
Yeah.
He only made the run on that day because there was nothing else to make it. I'd imagine at Cheltenham, assuming something goes a decent pace, you'd be happy to sit him in, handy.
The way he travels, you think you'll
Travels,
be very, very
whatever
happy.
about the way he travels, he'll stay all day,
Yeah.
so time will tell.
One of the bankers of the week, surely. Sir Eric.
Kevin, where does Band of Outlaws go?
Fred Winter. I'd
Winter.
be shocked if he didn't run there.
Okay, speaking of Fred Winter.
We do the Mayor's Novice.
Quickly. Very, very quickly, Mayor's Novice, go for it. You really fancy a horse here.
Yeah, I'd be very keen on Posh Trish for Paul Nicholls.
Okay.
I think she...
Sorry, there's a girl shouting, yes, yes.
Is that you, Trish?
Posh Trish is here tonight, and she's...
Hey, settle down, you.
Hello, Posh Trish, how are you? She's saying she's going to win. Fantastic, excellent.
Makes a change, Emmet. You're used to them shouting no, no. So.
How would you know? How would you know?
Oh, jeez.
Kevin, this is one of your big bets of the week.
I'd be very sweet on her now. I think she's rock solid. I know she has to give away £5 to the Fav, but Jesus, she throw a stone at her. You know, you can't find it. You know, rock solid, loads of experience, track form, stays further than the trip, no nonsense ride, trained for the race. You know, what's not to like? You know, Epatante looks very talented, but you just wonder. You know, she's been quite free going in her first 2 starts. She's going to be going there a little bit raw. You know, big occasion, first time she's met something like that. I wouldn't like to take it for granted that, you know, she'll be seeing the best effect in that environment. Maybe she will. But Posh Trish is just rock solid. You'd be absolutely sick if she didn't hit the frame.
Yeah.
And she's the sort of price she is, I think she's still 7 to 1 or that.
She is.
You'd be puking everywhere if she wasn't in the frame.
Peas and carrots all over the place. She doesn't at least get us the play spot. Barry, quick word on JP's horse, Epatante.
Don't throw a stone at her.
No, she was very good. She'd nothing to beat in Exeter, but she jumped really well. I was delighted with that. She didn't jump brilliantly in Kempton, but was very impressive. Niki is real sweeter. That's the main thing. Niki is raving about her, and you know he's trained more winners there than most. So I thought Honeysuckle is pretty rock solid too. Yeah. You know, she's been on 2 mile, 2.5 mile, better ground, soft ground. She just keeps winning. I think she's. I would respect Posh Trish. Given the £5 it's not an easy task. And Honeysuckle to me, it nearly represented bigger danger.
Okay, for health and safety reasons this year, I'm afraid Kevin Blake cannot throw Tiger Rolls to the audience. I know, but look, the sausages apparently are already made, but look, somebody made a lawsuit claim against them last year.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw glass bottles instead.
Apparently their eye got taken out. Kevin, how confident are you that Tiger Roll will once again win the cross country?
Sure, look, you'd be wicked sweet on him. What's going to beat him? You know,
nothing.
I don't think it was his ground last year, and he still did what he did. Geez, he looked like a horse that was loving life the last day. You know, and you'd always be worried about a horse coming back from a national that it might flatten him. But geez, he looked sweeter than ever. You know, with the blinkers back on last time, and geez, you'd be very upset if he was beaten, wouldn't you?
Jamie, I know Keith's going to ride him, but he ran over 2 mile 4 over Hurdle Company last time. He's a Grand National winner who absolutely bolted up. He is a good thing. He's a solid moral for the cross country, surely.
Yeah, look, if he jumps around, he should win. You know, he's a bonny little horse. He's a fantastic little horse for Gordon and all that. And Keith rides him again in the cross country, which is great.
How far, Jamie? How far?
I'd say he just wins anyway. Look at Ogrevant. I suppose won the Paddy Power this year. He probably could be more of a danger, but I just think off level weights and that. No, Tiger Roll is just way better than any of these, and if he does get a good passage around.
Okay. Now, we did get a very interesting piece of information from Kevin Blake, who met Gordon Elliott. Is it true you will be riding Measure of My Dreams in the Kimura? Would you say that Measure of My Dreams has got a
fishing there? Yeah.
Would you say Measure of My Dreams got a decent chance in the Kimura?
He does. Yeah, he's a great ride.
Would you say he's got a very good chance?
He's got a very good chance.
Would you say he's going to win?
Look, he has to jump around.
Lump on! Measure of My Dreams! He wins the Kimura.
Well, I'll just tell you very quick, lads. Last year I had that bit of a story about Tiger Roll and something that Gordon said to me on the QT that I think turned out to be very true. But we were up at the yard there, whatever it was, a week and a half ago for a stable tour. And twice, completely unprompted, completely and utterly unprompted, the horse had not got a mention all day. Just when I happened to be beside Gordon chatting to him about nothing, he said twice, "Geez, Measure of My Dreams in some order. Geez, he's going to run well in the Kimura." Twice. Complete, out of the blue. Out of the blue. Twice. You say it once now, you kind of forget about it. But twice. if you want the Gordon whisper for this year now, we had Tiger Row last year. That was the one. Now he was 33-1 that day, lads. If you read me piece on At the Races, he was still 33-1 when I tipped him. So hopefully somebody got on.
Of course, I didn't read it, so I didn't get the price.
But that was when I walked away from Gordon's that day. That was the name that was kind of ringing in my ears. Now he's still.
What was it you said about Tiger Row last year? What was it Gordon told you?
Watershed. We can't repeat it.
No, that's gone now. Matt's blown that out the water. Can you just adapt that from Measure My Dreams for the clip?
Well, he fancies Measure My Dreams, lads. That's all you need to know.
Jesus, lads, he's fucking flying. Have what you want on him. Jamie Codd can't get beaten. Kevin, your best handicap bet of the week.
Well, I fancy a few, and I'll just rattle through them fairly lively. In the Coral Cup, I'm operating under the assumption that Uredale won't get in. I don't think he'll get in. He might, but I don't think he will. If Whiskey Sour turns up, lads, I think he could go off Fav. I still think he's 20-1 odd.
He is, yeah.
If he runs, he goes off Fav. He's got the profile that everyone will latch onto on the day if he's declared, and I think he has a super chance. In the per temps or the per tomps, as my learned friend here beside me
Tony Keenan calls it.
It's deadly obvious now, but you know the per temps is a race for the plotters and the schemers. You have to run in the qualifier. You have to finish in the first 6 to get a run. The run of Sire de Burley in the qualifier at Christmas, lads, it was a work of art. It was absolutely magnificent. He snuck into 6th there late on, qualified. He ran a super race. Yeah, oh, I wouldn't say that.
You saw how the McManus clan put Davy Russell, Jigginstown's jockey, on their horse. They left all their boys off it, and they stuck Davy on it.
He did some job. It was magnificent. It was
How much did you pay him to do that, Barry?
It was a thing of beauty. And
I wasn't even in the country.
Good man, Barry.
But he ran very well at the meeting last year, over 2.5. I'd say the longer trip would really, really suit him. Look, he's well found in the market, but I could see him being one now that people really, really latch on. And geez, I think he'll take it. I know it's a super competitive race now, but geez, he'll take an awful lot of beating, I think.
Okay, that's 2. Anything else?
I think I had one more. Yeah, if Uredale, again, operating on assumptions, but if Uredale doesn't get into the Coral, he'll go for the Martin Pipe. And again, just perfect profile for this type of race. He hasn't had a chance to show how well handicapped he is over hurdles in his last couple of runs. Things have gone wrong. He's been brought down. Trip was inadequate last time. 2.5. I think he improved something like, off the top of my head, 21 pounds on the flat last year. I think there's scope for him to take a good step forward over hurdles, and the Martin Pipe could be the place he does it.
I've noticed you haven't mentioned a race. Which Joseph O'Brien horse wins the Fred Winter?
Really strong hand. Band of Outlaws. If I had to, if the question you asked me was which one of them will be the highest rated in 12 months, I'd answer Band of Outlaws. But the question you have is whether he'll be able to show that at Cheltenham. He's a speed horse. You know, a little bit less than a year ago, he was dropped back to 6 furlongs because we thought he'd be effective over 6. You know, he's very fast. He's won his last 2 over hurdles. An absolute dog race last time. Slowly run perfectly for him. If he gets home at Cheltenham, geez, it'd be hard to beat, but it has to be a question mark. He'll never have gone as quick as he is likely to have to do at Cheltenham. You know, up the hill, it'll be a question mark. Fine Brunello ran a lovely race behind Fakir Duderie. He's a horse for the future, but I could see him running all right. And Star Max, you know, improving with every start, but probably the least attractive of the 3. Canito doesn't run. And that's it, I think, isn't it? I don't think I'm forgetting one.
To be fair, you've gone through them all, to be fair. But us and them, you would say, will be the best of them in 12 months' time.
Us and them?
Band of Outlaws.
Us and them. Deary me. Band of Outlaws.
Yeah, I'd say so, but it wouldn't be a complete shock to me if we don't find that out until Aintree. You know, he could be more of an Aintree horse than a Cheltenham horse. Could be totally wrong. All right. But with his overall profile, you'd have worries that might be the case.
Tony, you're too busy with the diesel business for the handicaps with the Close brothers. You're keen on one there.
Are we doing the bumper?
Yeah, we are going to do
coming
the bumper as well. Yeah, I know you've got a question about the bumper as well.
I know Henry de Bromhead has far better things to be doing than listen to gobshites like us, but Henry, please run Poker Party in the Close brothers. The horse is the only horse in the Cheltenham Festival that has been left on his Irish handicap mark. This horse will never be as well handicapped again. If he's right, please run him. He's 20-1, and
he told me the other day
he's not running. I know.
Oh, no!
They might change their mind.
On a serious note, like Irish horse, Kevin, you've written a piece that chasers are up an average of 3, the hurdlers are up an average of 4, whatever. I just cannot believe this horse has been let in of 138. He would have made the cut on last year's ballot anyway. All the horses that tie in with him, Speak O'Connelly, and all these 3 or 4 to finish behind him with Nace have been put up pounds. He's been left in the same mark. I think if he was in form, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think last Friday I was speaking to Henry. I think the concern at the time was that they were worried the race might come a bit quick for him, and he seemed pretty negative on the possibility of him running now. So I'd say hey lads, non-runner, no bet. If you want to take the chance, go ahead, but he wouldn't have given you wild encouragement that he'll go.
Okay, Barry, you've ridden a lot of the top races this season, a lot of the top handicaps. Who have you spotted that you think will be very interesting at Cheltenham, and which handicapper are you most looking forward to riding during the festival?
Well, they're all telling me about Sarah de Burley in Farius or wherever it was with Davy. I rode him work this morning. He wouldn't set you light now, so I hope he's a bit sharper.
Have you ridden him before, Barry?
I rode him his first run in Punchestown, yeah, and geez, I thought this is a nice sweet horse. But he was workmanlike this morning.
Don't worry, Barry, he'll be a bit sharper.
Right, so there you go.
Oh, yeah. He'll have a sharpener.
Jerry's back will probably go for the Ultima. He was beaten in Haydock last time. He does lack experience, but I think he's a good staying type and he'll enjoy the trip. He could be a good ride in the Ultima. And a horse who I won on in Cheltenham back in October, Carnardier. I'm not sure which handicap he'll go for, but he's worth keeping an eye out for.
Make a note of him in your At the Races tracker. Jamie, we know Measure My Dreams wins the Kim Muir. Who else are you looking forward to seeing in the handicaps?
There's a horse running in the Ultima, Janika, of Niki Henderson's. We were at another preview there the other night, and Dar Jacob was home, and he was raving about this horse. And that's good enough for me. He said he was his best rider of the week.
There was a possibility he could go for the Ryanair as well, but they're going to go down the handicap route.
He goes the handicap, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's Janika for the Sweden Munir team. Matt Chapman, your best handicap bet of the week?
Yeah, I mentioned already, Live, Love, Laugh, wherever that goes. I think Mr. Whittaker, Mick Shannon's horse, runs in the race after the Arkle, so it could be a big 40 minutes for Shannon. I think he's a very solid jumper. And the other horse that I really like, and I'm not absolutely sure where he's going to run, but wherever Whiskey Sour goes, because he is absolutely a horse made for Cheltenham. Grade 1 winning hurdler as a youngster, cruises round, big field, strong pace. He hasn't actually raced since November, but look at his in-running comment when he last raced. They put up Ray Dawson, Willie Mullins did for Whiskey Sour, raced towards rear, pushed along throughout, kept on well inside Final Furlong, never nearer, finished 9th. The perfect run. Ray has done the job to absolute perfection there. He's finished 9th, running on nicely, and guess what? We haven't seen the horse since. So Willie Mullins obviously thought, we've done this so well, we'll just wait for Cheltenham. And well, Ray Dawson, take a bow.
To be fair, Christophe Soumillon rode him at Royal Ascot when Let's Go to Vegas won the big race. Lagos to Vegas, for God's sakes. Right, we are going to give away the £50 bets from Coral, but we'll do that after we go off air, so don't go running anywhere. I've got names of winners here, but before that, Coral have given us a £100 charity bet for each member of the team, so we will start with Kevin Blake, who just said, oh, fuck. Kevin, your £100 charity bet, the nap of the meeting for you is...
Hard line, win only.
Oh, on the nose. On the nose.
Go hard or go home, lads.
Tony Keenan.
Right, okay. I text this. If a fella texts me there, he's a strong Republican there from the north of Ireland yesterday. And
yes.
He says, give me a bet for Cheltenham. And I says, No, it's not a price. This is the problem.
Jesus,
that's a bit rough now. Hold on. So
Trish is going nuts up there.
Trish.
If this is Great Britain to win the Presbytery Cup.
I said to him, it'll kill you to back it. I says, but back the Brits to win the Presbytery Cup.
Stop.
And the answer he gave me was, that's grand. He says, There's no Patriots when you're throwing dice. I thought it was very good. I think the UK to win the Presbyterian Cup, they're a bit overpriced. 7-4. I love that for the charity bet. Do you want the case for it?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's a 7-4 shot. Terrific. Barry Geraghty. 100 quid from Coral. Who's it going on?
Bouvedere.
Bouvedere. He thinks he's going to win the champion hurdle. 3 champion hurdles in a row. Jamie Codd. 100 quid charity bet. Who's it on?
Apple's Shade.
Apple's Shade! To nail Barry Geraghty. Matt Chapman. The 100 quid from Coral goes on.
Lorena.
The funds, by the way, go.
I just thought I'd go for the winner. That's all.
The funds, by the way, go to the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund. So they're getting screwed one way or the other there. I will put up 100 quid to win on Bells Hill to win the Gold Cup. Bells Hill wins the Gold Cup. There we go. Stay here.
Wiley.
We got 50 quid bets. Thanks to Coral to give you. I have just been told in my ear that this has doubled the audience for Irish racing this year so far in broadcasting. So thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed it. Give it up, please, for Mr. Kevin Blake. Big Bula Boss for the man who'll be cheering on Britain, Tony Keenan. The man who could be the leading rider at Cheltenham this year, Sky Sports Racing's Barry Geraghty.
And JP's bitch.
The Codfather, Jamie Codd. And a man who will be busy interviewing trainers tomorrow in Lingfield, where there'll be 2 runner fields, Sky Sports Racing's Matt Chapman. And from me, Emmet Kennedy, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. See you next year and see you in the Final Furlong Podcast on Thursday. And from the GOAT, the best sports bar in Ireland,